Listen to your favorite shows live and on demand 24/7. Download the 77 WABC mobile app now. This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
I love this song. Love it. Love it.
Hey, Schooner. I'm like a person of no consequence.
And good morning. Frank Morano is off this week on vacation. I'm Dominic Carter filling in. I'm with you for the first 2 hours of the program this morning. Then my colleague Noam Laden will take over. There is a lot to talk about, as you folks know. And let's go ahead and open up the phone lines right now. 646-720-0635. I want to hear from you folks from all around the country. All around the country. 646-720-0635. You can also send me a message on Twitter, on X, at Dominic TV, at Dominic TV. So I was just asked a question a few minutes ago about what does the husband of Vice President Kamala Harris do for a living? And I'm looking at my Twitter, and someone who I trust here, DMS, she says, in short, the first gentleman is a lawyer. And so I don't know if it's first gentleman, second gentleman, but I thought it was first gentleman, but then somebody told me it's second gentleman, but we know the title is gentleman, and he's a lawyer. He is a lawyer who is married to the vice president. So let's deal with the issue at hand. And this is how it all started. As I told you folks, this same time, 24 hours ago, that the National Association of Black Journalists Convention was going to make major news. And in fact, that's what's happened. What happened at the convention in Chicago perhaps will be one of the defining moments of this fall campaign. I want you folks to listen to what Mr. Trump had to say about the vice president.
Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
646-720-0635. Mr. Trump making the charge that the vice president is identifying now as a African-American woman, as a black woman for political reasons, for political gain. Interesting. A short time ago in Houston, Texas, the vice president responded.
Donald Trump spoke at the annual meeting of the National Association of Black Journalists. And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better.
the vice president making those comments on teleprompter. A point that I've been making the last couple of nights here on this program. Madam Vice President, you're going to have to get off that teleprompter. If you are going to be the leader of the free world, there are times when the teleprompter has to go. Absolutely has to go. 646-720-0634. We're beginning with your telephone calls. Jacqueline on line 1, Brooklyn, New York. Jacqueline, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Dominic. Some people have been criticizing that mostly Republicans, I guess, are referring to Kamala Harris as a DEI hire when Joe Biden himself used those exact words when he made the public statement that his administration is the most diversified administration in the history of the country. And he went on to clarify and very specifically said his vice president has the highest position in his cabinet as a DEI hire. So I don't know why people are getting all bent out of shape about it. And as far as that interview with President Trump, what I think he should have turned around and taken it a step further when the quote-unquote journalist asked him about DEI comments, he should have said the same thing that KBJ said when she was asked, Ketanji Brown Jackson, what is a woman? Oh, I can't define what a woman is. So President Trump should have turned around and said the same thing. Well, I know what DEI stands for, but can you explain it and define it for me? And of course, that woman wouldn't do it. But how come it was okay for KBJ and it's not okay for President Trump? Double standard?
Perhaps Trump could not have done that because the headline tonight would have been the innuendo would have been dumb ex-president who can't even define the policy that he's pushing. So he
can't win no matter what.
There you go. There you go. There you go. He cannot win no matter what he does. But he hit a home run in Chicago. He went into the Lion's Den knowing what he was walking into. And that journalist from, if that's what we're going to call her, from ABC, as the kids say, she played herself. Now, granted, Jacqueline, she might be on The View next week, a part-time role, receiving the big dinero. But what she did was despicable to journalists. You don't act that hostile to a former president of the United States of America. But it was an open audition for her. She knew very well what she was doing. And I thank you for the call, Jacqueline. I hope it works out for her. So, folks, last hour, I was speaking to Barbara in New Jersey. And I'm so glad that Barbara just reached back out because Barbara said that what Trump did in Chicago was racist. So, Barbara, for folks that are joining us, a different national audience right now, I want you to tell me what did Trump do that was racist? And let's go point by point. I'm going to try my best not to cut you off because I respect you, I really do. But I want to know point by point, and we can respond point counterpoint. What did Trump do that was racist?
Okay, well, the first thing was where he said that she's maybe a DEI hire and maybe not, instead of following that up with saying that the people that are calling her a DEI hire shouldn't be doing that because we don't know if she's a DEI hire. He didn't do that.
Barbara,
he said maybe not, maybe yes.
Okay, so Barbara, so what's that line for the movie with Tom Cruise? You can't handle the truth. Barbara, she's a DEI hire. What else would you call the vice president, the way that she ascended to power to become the vice president?
But if Donald Trump is the nominee of the Republican Party, he himself doesn't know.
No, he knows. Barbara. Yeah, this is modern day politics. You have to understand how this works. You Barbara. You make the charge and then you run from it. You throw the charge out there. You throw it out there, and then you don't. Wait, let me finish, please. And then you don't leave your fingerprints on it. That's modern day politics. That's what Trump did. Of course, he said that she's a DEI hire, and then before an all black crowd, I give him credit for even going that far. He had to pull back. You can't leave your fingerprints on something like that. So what else did Trump say that was racist?
Okay, no. So he can't say the truth, is what you're saying.
He said the truth.
Something, and then you say he didn't mean that, and he didn't really want to say that, but he had to say it in order to cover up. Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that he made the charge, and then you back up, and you don't leave fingerprints on it.
By saying, I don't know if she's a DEI pick or not.
Right.
That's a little far. That's not backing up a little bit and saying, oh, but she's a good... You know what backing up would be like saying, but she's a good person also, maybe.
But that's not racist. What else did Trump do that was racist?
Well, that is racist.
Okay, wait. What else did he do
allowing this campaign against her like that? And wait, why don't you play the full cut where Trump said he doesn't know? I don't know if your audience got to hear that. Full context, I think, would be important here.
We will play that a bit later. That
was the key example of this event, I thought, and we have seen other things in the past. That was not the key of the event in Chicago. I'm talking about my key takeaway in terms of him showing his racism at this event. But, there were other things there as well.
So, Barbara, why not just tell me you just don't like Trump? Why not be straight up with it?
Because I'm giving you examples of his racism as I see it.
But why not just tell me the truth that you don't like Trump? Just be real with it.
Okay, do you like Joe Biden? Why don't you say right now that you don't like it? It's not the conversation.
And it's not. No. Right. There we go. So you see. Okay. So at least. No. So at least everybody can follow.
You say nasty things about Joe Biden all the time. You say things that he's not a good person, that he does wrong things. No.
You're confusing me. You're confusing me, Barbara. You're confusing me with another host. I don't ever say that Mr. Biden is not a good person. As a matter of fact, I defend him as much as possible when callers raise that.
You say he does horrible things. You say he commits corruption with getting money from other countries.
No, Barbara. You're attributing things to me that I have never said. Now, you may hear callers say that, but Barbara, do me a favor, Barbara. I want to continue this. I want you to please stay with me. Just hold on. We see all the other calls that are coming in from around the country, but I think this is a conversation that is needed for Barbara and I to have. We are coming right back, and you are listening to The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I've been really trying, baby, trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And if you feel like I feel, baby, then come on. Oh!
And we are back. Marvin Gaye. Sometimes when I don't have something good to say, I'll go, or I'll go, We're all sensitive people, right? So we stand on ethics. NABJ. I've been to about 15 national conventions. I'm no longer an active member. My daughter is, as a journalist. Something wrong with me loving you. I don't need the text that I can't sing. We already know that I can't sing. Could never be wrong. Ooh, if the love is true. Wow. So, Trump is here and we've got to be ethical and standards, and I've got to hold him accountable. And I'm auditioning for The View because I'm going to make $3 million in less than 6 months if I stand out against Trump. That's what that journalist at ABC, the lead journalist, that's what she was doing. I'm telling you, folks, because I know what you have to do to stand out in order to get there. And you stand by ethics, right? But I've been to a number of the conventions, and as they say in Vegas, what stays in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. That's the same with the NABJ conferences. By day, ethical, ethics. By night, by night. And I'm telling you because I know. I've been there. And to all the male journalists that are the lead anchors in their cities, their respective cities, and you come to the convention, whether it's in Chicago, Vegas, New York, Philly, no matter where it is, and all the women, not all, but enough, married, not married, they line up at the events, the cocktail hour, the nighttime events. They line up to kiss your ring. I know because I was one of them. Dominic Carter coming from New York. And they would line up. Pretty women, folks. And by nighttime, they kiss your ring and, ooh, you're a star. And, oh, Mr. Carter. That's what happens. Now I have the maturity to go, nope. Leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. And at these conferences, the NABJ conferences, hubby's not invited. Hubby stays home. Wife is not invited. Wife stays home. You do the math of what happens at nighttime. So, yeah. Boy, if these walls could talk, trust me, when I'm at the end of my career, I'm going to tell a whole lot of stories. A whole lot of stories. If I told the stories, some of these lead anchormen that you see in cities in Philadelphia and Chicago, and they're good looking and they got the voice and they're educated. If I told the stories of what happened at these NABJ conferences with these lead anchor people and all the women journalists that are there, but by day we're ethical and we're gonna hold Trump accountable. That's what we're here to do. You're gonna answer Trump for Black America. It's amazing. Okay, so Barbara. Back to you, Barbara, in New Jersey. We're going to go to Chicago in a moment. Other calls that are coming in. So, Barbara, one more time. So, hey, I give you credit. You admitted that you hate Trump, that you don't like Trump. But what else did he do? What else did he do that was racist, in your opinion? Because in my opinion, he didn't do anything that was racist.
You're talking about tonight specifically?
Yes.
Is that what you're focused on?
Yes, please.
I mean, today. So today, that was the prime example. And that's really where it comes down to. But, when you ask me if I don't like Trump, and after I said all these things about him, the thing is, it's not like I pick and choose, I don't like this person, so I'm going to say nasty things about this person. I like this person, I'm going to say good things. No, I work the opposite way. I see a racist, Donald Trump, saying nasty things and doing all these horrible things. And then I say he's a bad person. It's not like, you say he's bad, so whatever you say doesn't matter. No, he's doing bad things, and that's why I think he's bad. And
but I keep asking you what. But I keep asking you what did he do bad, and you're not giving me examples.
I told you.
You gave me the one example about DEI, and I told you in terms of politics. That's not racist.
Of course, that's racist.
That's not racist. But is it true? It's not racist if it's true.
It's true that he doesn't know that she's a DEI.
No, I told you when he says he doesn't know, you make the attack and then you back up. This is what all candidates do. You make the attack and then you back up so that your fingerprints are not on it. That's what Trump
did. You could say that about anything that anybody ever
and it
says.
happens almost, and it happens every day in modern day politics. You're correct. You're correct. Hey, Barbara, I've got 20 seconds here to wrap this up with you. Go ahead.
Okay. And he has proven himself to be a racist in the past as well.
You keep saying that.
Okay. To black people by saying, "Oh, I'm a criminal like you people." Well,
no, that's not what he said.
Yes,
that's not what he said. He said that he could relate. He could relate to some.
Anybody.
Okay, Barbara, thank you for the call. Folks, we see all your calls coming in. When I come back, I'm going to go to Steve. Oh, okay, no, we're going to keep going right now. So exactly what I'm going to do right now is go to Steve on AM 910 in Detroit. Steve, is that accurate? Now, but you're in Chicago right now. Is that accurate?
In Chicago.
So you're in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
And what station are you listening to us on right now?
I believe I'm not. I was actually combing through stations, kind of fiddling around while I was doing emails. So it might be 910. I'm not sure.
Okay, wait. Is that 910? I'm just trying to get a locator here. Is that 9? I know AM 910 in Detroit? Is that what you believe, or no?
Oh yeah, you know what? It might be in Detroit because it was coming. It was kind of like fizzing out and stuff. So yeah, it's probably that's probably is the station.
Okay,
because it's not in Chicago.
Okay, all right. So go right ahead with your perspective.
Okay, well, a couple of things I was going to say. Number one, you're right about. I've been to a National Association of Black Journalists convention, not convention, but I think it was a meeting, whatever. Anyway, it's about 10 years ago. Tons of beautiful, incredible women. I'll say that. I'm a photographer. But anyway.
Hey, Steve, wait. You don't have to rush right now, Steve. Relax. First of all, Steve, understand something, right? I'm not your typical talk show host. When I say something, it's based on fact. It's based on experience. And I've already been honest to state about what goes on at these conferences by night. Why do you think they're so well attended? Because at daytime it's ethics and it's classes where you can be a better journalist, and by nighttime it's women that are 10 out of 10 that are journalists that are dressed to the nines, and they're ready to play. It's simple as that. And that's what goes down at these conventions. And if you're a lead anchor person, let's say out of Chicago, out of Philly, out of Detroit, you do the math. But go ahead, Steve.
Right. But and I've I've been. I'm kind of, I would say, independent photographer. I've gotten in some things that, kind of finagle my way into. I was at Obama's inaugural ball without being a big-time donor, without being a journalist from a major news organization, or without being a senator or governor or something like that. So many people, at the time, people were offering to buy my media credentials anywhere from almost $10,000 on up.
Okay, all right. So go ahead and tell me what's the point of your call.
But the point of my call is that most people don't know the reason that Kamala Harris is actually at the top of the ticket now is because by Obama and some of his operatives and some other key people pressing Biden, they were going to put the actual 25th Amendment on him, enacted with him. And so he got back at them by endorsing Kamala Harris. Obama didn't want to endorse Kamala Harris. He wanted an open convention.
Exactly.
And some of the other key people, they wanted open.
And he wanted an open convention because he knows that Kamala Harris can't win, and he wanted anyone else besides her.
Right. They didn't think she could win, and so Biden, he wanted to get back at them for forcing him out. So he immediately endorsed Kamala Harris, which means they would have to do it. Otherwise, they would look disjointed and everything like that. So, but the main thing, and another thing is that they had no men at questioning him. I mean, they had 3 women. You would think they might have one male journalist among
yes,
them.
But you have to understand the politics of the organization. You've got to work your way up to the top, and I'm sure it's female dominated these days. As long as they didn't have that clown Roland Martin on stage, I'm happy, because he's the biggest opportunist I've ever met in my entire life, and he should never be heard from again. And anybody that follows him, look into his career in terms of being an opportunist. Don't judge what I'm saying. Don't judge me. Listen and think about what I'm saying. Absolute opportunist. But go ahead, Stephen. I got to move on to David in the Bronx, New York. Go ahead.
But anyway, I've actually met Donald Trump in person. I met him when he was doing the grand opening of his Trump Towers in Chicago, and I met him out in New York a time or two. But anyway, the thing of it is, Chicago is incredible that they with these open borders. I can see the results of open borders. They have places here that they have open hotels, and they're paying these hotels tons of money to house these illegal migrants and things. And they have slum cities and tent cities of people that they're trying to clean up for the convention. Well, at the same time, they're having migrants that they're paying $9,000 for 6 months of living and all sorts of credit cards and debit cards and things like that.
It's funny, incredible. Steve. It's funny, and I got to wrap this up now, Steve. It's funny that you say that.
What's your name?
My name is Dominic. My name is Dominic. Dominic Carter. It's funny that you say that, Steve, because next hour I'm going to deal with the migrant issue. Free. Show me the money. In terms of Chicago, in terms of New York, how they are destroying government leaders, entire communities, to please migrants. Why would you do this? I will never, ever know. David, line 4 in the Bronx. Good morning, David. What's on your mind?
Yeah, good morning, Dominic. All right. This is the problem with what Trump said today, and I'm not going to accuse him of being a racist, but when he went into that discussion about Kamala Harris's ethnic background and whether she was Indian at one point, then black at another, I'm an interracial person myself who's a little bit younger than Kamala Harris, and I understand what it's like when people make assumptions about a person's race, and I don't think that was right. I think that borders on what I would describe as a racially insensitive comment that could be taken as racist. It's not his role to discuss what her racial background is.
David. I'm gonna let you finish. Okay, now, so you're running against me, right? We want you and I want to be president, right? And every time you're in your suite and you're watching me on television and you're saying to yourself, look at this phony. He's playing, let's say I'm biracial. Today, he's playing up the fact that he's black. Tomorrow, he's playing up the fact that he's white. This guy is trying to pull a wool over the American people. You don't think if you're my rival that you should point that out? That you're doing this for political gain?
All right. You know what the one drop rule is, right?
Excuse me?
The one drop rule. You know what that is, correct?
Yes, if you have one drop of African-American blood, then you're African-American. I got that. But how is that relevant to what I'm saying?
Okay, because Kamala Harris, and I'm blind now, but I know what she looks like, okay? She looks like an African-American woman. I don't think anyone
That's what you say. That's open to interpretation. But go ahead.
Okay. Anyhow, her history and everything else, I don't understand why it's relevant.
I just told you. If you're running against me and I'm biracial, and the only thing that's stopping you from the presidency is you've got to get me out of the way. And you're sitting in your suite with your advisors and you're saying to yourself, look at this phony Dominic. One day he goes to the black community, he's black. The next day he goes to the white community, he's white. This guy is an absolute phony. Wouldn't you have an obligation to point that out?
That's if she was doing that. So this is
That's exactly what she's doing.
Wait, hold on. Let me explain to you, okay? When you're an interracial person in America, like I'm half black and half Italian, my entire life, I was never allowed to talk about being half Italian, okay? Because when you're perceived as black when you say you weren't allowed to talk about being Italian, that's self-imposed. That's self-imposed. No, it's not, because people.
Okay,
don't
so wait. Who told you that you couldn't talk about the fact that you were half Italian? Who told you that?
Wait, what do you mean they didn't tell me?
You said you could not talk about the fact that you're half Italian, right? That's self-imposed.
All right, when I would discuss my background, which wasn't that often, thank heavens, in the school I was at, people never wanted to know about the other half. It was always, you're black, never that you're biracial or interracial, and that's a problem. People, if you're half Italian and half Japanese, people have no problem being that. But if you're half black and half anything else, you're just black. And that's something that is sort of unique to America. It's not right. And if Kamala Harris is a multiracial person, she should be able to discuss both sides of her heritage without being accused of being a phony.
But here's the key. Here's the key, David. You're not running for president. She is.
And if I was, so if I was running for president, you think it'd be okay for someone to say, well, sometimes he says he's black and sometimes he says he's half white.
If that's what you were doing, then I would say yes. You've got to call a spade a spade. If that's what you were doing in the middle of a campaign, going to the black community with one message, and I'm with you, brother, and then going to the white community with another message, I'm with you, America. Yes, and I'm running against you. You better believe it. I'm going to call you out on it. Yes.
All right, Dominic. All I'm going to tell you is this: to a lot of Americans like myself who are multiracial, that came off as a very insensitive, borderline racist comment from Trump, and it's highly inappropriate. I don't know who that helps him with. It's not going to help him with black voters, I can tell you that. And people like myself who consider ourselves interracial, I think a lot of us were highly offended and are going to be less likely to support Trump after this because other people are now repeating it, and they're using it as like a slur. And that's not right. I'm sorry. It's just not right, Dominic.
Well, I hear you, David, and I enjoy your passion that you bring to the issues. I really do, and I'm listening to you, and I know being a biracial person in America is not easy. It's not easy. I understand that sometimes there are psychological problems that come with this issue, but. And thank you for the call, David. If a person is running for president of the United States of America, everything in their background is fair game. Everything. I'm sorry. We may not like it, but the fact of the matter is everything is fair game. We are taking your telephone call, 646 here on the other side of midnight, 720-0635-646, and you can call us from all over the country, 646-720-0635. Let's go to Feliciano in Sullivan County, New York. Good morning. What's on your mind?
Hey, good morning, Dominic. I'm a first-time caller.
Well, thank you.
And I'm just a little heated right now because, as you see, my name is Feliciano, and I'm African-American. I'm a black man. But, like, when I go to doctors, and even when I was in school, they always tried to give me a Spanish test. Even when my card said preferred language is English. But they calling Donald Trump a racist. He's not being a racist. He's simply saying that he's known Kamala Harris as being Indian, is what she ran on. Now she's running for presidency. Now she's black. So, yeah, she's doing that to Trump up votes. She's turning it over to say she's black. He said he don't really know her, but she's been Indian for the longest while. Next thing I want to speak on real quick is about the migrant thing. You know, that really got me on fire when you were talking about the police and they beating up police and everything. Listen, I'm born and raised in this beautiful country. And let me tell you, if that was me, they would have been trying to give me 5 years with no bail. You understand what I'm saying? And they let these guys walk off free. And I'm sick and tired of putting up migrants, paying for the health, the food, and the housing, and all they doing is biting the damn hand that feeds them. You understand what I'm saying? And like, it got me real hot. And one more thing I just want to say real quick. Let the haters hate and watch the electoral votes pile up. Thank you, Dominic. I appreciate you. I appreciate your show. I work at night. When I come out the gate with you, and Mr. Frank Morano usually takes me through the night. And I appreciate your show. I appreciate you, and you're doing a great job.
I appreciate you. And you're so right in terms of let the haters hate. But that's easier said than done, right? So to be honest with you, that's something that I hear at home all the time. So like, for example, let me give you this quick story here, folks. Quick story. So with the debates that I used to do from Hillary Clinton on down, right? Debates for mayor of New York City. Major debates. And the way this used to work, at least here in New York City, you do the debate, and then me, my wife, and my kids, we would go out. They were younger. We would go, and I didn't understand that my daughter was watching my every move to go into journalism herself, into television journalism. And so we would go out to dinner, and I'm sitting at dinner, a nervous wreck, and I'm like, honey, what are the papers going to say? What are they going to say about my performance as the moderator, right? That's what happens. And so you're at dinner, and at the time you were waiting, we would stay out. We live in the suburbs. We wouldn't drive home. We would stay out and wait for the early edition of the New York Times or the New York Daily News to see what they were going to say about me as the debate performer. Or oftentimes I would be driving to work, and my wife turned on the radio, and callers would be calling in saying, that guy Carter is moderator. Boom, 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 boom. And I would go, ugh, and turn the radio off, right? Almost like the athletes that don't want to hear whatever's being said. And she would say to me, piggybacking on what the last caller just said, she would say, are they paying for our family to eat? No, honey, they're not. Then why are you letting them impact you like that? Let the haters hate. And it's true. But let me tell you, folks, it is so easy to say, let the haters hate. But it's different when you have to actually deal with this. And so, Feliciano, thank you for the call, and we're glad that we're with you at work as you do the overnight shift. And this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Dominic Carter, in for Frank Morano and Noam Laden. I'll be with you folks until 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at that point, Noam Laden will take over for me. Let's go to Matt, Rockland County, New York. Matt, what's on your mind?
Hey, Dominic, thanks for taking my call. Today's Trump, ambush.
Wait, Matt, you broke up. What did you say? All I heard was Trump ambush. What did you say prior to that?
I said I just had a couple of comments about it. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. First off, I don't think there was anything racist about it at all. I think, he did as good as he could have in that situation. But I also think that no matter what he did today, the media already had it planned that they were going to call him racist today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Matt, I'm so glad. I want you to finish. I'm so glad that you just brought that up. And again, I'm just trying to give folks an idea of what happened. So if you're a political reporter, if you want to know how we're able to flip a story so fast, to what Matt just said, we already have a pre-script ready to go before the event happens, based on how we think the event is going to happen, and then we'll modify the script because the script has got to go through approval, through the managing editor, blah, 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 blah. So you are correct. You are correct, Matt. The media already had a script ready to go today. Trump is racist. He's racist. Continue, please.
Yeah, well, that's basically it. I actually wanted to say, too, I have a feeling, I listen to your show often. In the past couple of days, it seems like you have a lot of these people claiming to be Republicans that are now switching over. I think they're just Democrats calling you, and they're trying to start a trend there. I see it on social media, too. Everyone just claiming to be a Republican and switching to Kamala now.
Right. I hear you. I hear you, and I thank you for the call. Let's go to Debbie in Connecticut. Good morning, Debbie. What's on your mind?
Well, I just feel that, hearing what's going on right now in the past year, that it's very distracting, and we're not keeping our eye on the prize, which is freedom equals Donald Trump, socialism equals Kamala Harris, Joe Biden. And that's all I really wanted to say. Let's keep our eye on the prize.
And so, Debbie,
left wing.
Go ahead.
They're left-wing liberals, and they're bringing it's already here, socialism. They're really slipping it right in under us. And along comes communism as well. On Donald Trump's freedom, and they're trying to blindside us. But please, people, don't forget, Donald Trump equals freedom, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, socialism. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough, Debbie. Thank you for the call. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Frank Morano is on vacation. Dominic Carter here with you. We're taking your calls from around the country. 646-720-0635. 646-720-0635. Sherman, line 7. Good morning, Sherman, and welcome to The Other Side of Midnight.
Good morning to you, Mr. Carter. And as usual, you have an outstanding, fantastic show. I'm always grateful to have this time to talk and listen to you and speak to your this outstanding audience. Let me say this to you respectfully, directly. I am so amazed at the hypocrisy, the double and triple standard from these phony callers that are totally emotional. They're not using objective reality, objective truth. They don't have any critical faculty skills whatsoever, especially David. And it's a lady who called in earlier. You know, I hear David all the time whining and complaining and finding any little thing, splitting hairs, anything he can find to blame and criticize Trump. But I never hear him call in and speak about how phony President Biden was. He is on tape, video and audio, bragging about how he got some guy fired, a gentleman in Europe who was attempting to investigate a company his son was working for. That alone, to me, disqualifies him for being president, right? And we can go further with that. If you look at Donald Trump's children, they all seem to be reasonably very well off in terms of mental and physical behavior. They're not caught up in any major scandals. They're not in hotels talking about doing crack. They're not with Russian prostitutes. But interestingly enough, Joe Biden's son is a mess because his father probably is too busy looking for power and fame in politics and didn't love his son. So that, to me, is proof. You look at the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So again, with David, I always hear him finding anything he can. But he, as a person of color, right? And listen, tonight must be the show where everybody's got to talk about their background. My mother is Black American. My father is Native American. Now, here's the deal. Nobody bullied me or tried to control me from talking about who I was. I grew up in some very serious areas in Brooklyn. I grew up in the projects with my mother in Brooklyn, in Canarsie, until my mother died. After my mother died, I moved in with my grandparents. So I was fortunate to have both experiences. But in Brooklyn, when I grew up, I learned from a young age, you got to stand up for yourself. You can't be a punk, even if you get beat up. And you can't let people control you. Your reputation is a lot to you growing up.
You could say that again, Sherman. Even if you got beat up, you had to stand up and fight. You had to.
I find David to be, respectfully, David, I find it to be laughable and preposterous. Oh, what do you mean? Literally someone put their hand over your mouth and say you can't talk about being Black and Italian? That's nonsense. David, respectfully, sounds like a victim, and he sounds very emotional, and it's always all about him. As soon as the call, it always turns around and ends up being about him. So it's like the bottom line is Joe Biden has done nothing for the Black community. If anybody can call in now and name 3 things that Joe Biden has done for the Black community within the last 9 to 10 years, even before he was vice president and president, please call in and tell me. Okay, Donald Trump has had numerous businesses where he has had people of color working there. If you look at The Apprentice and watch the show, he's always had outstanding people of color on the show all the time. So David and all these other people are just phony. The reason why they're scared and intimidated Trump is because Trump is a standard masculine man, and that's why these Black rappers like him, because even though he's white and even though he's a businessman, he projects an aura of he's not a victim or a punk. And a lot of people are very threatened by that.
You're correct, Sherman. I have to step in. Thank you, Sherman. Wonderful call. Sherman is correct. He's correct as it relates to a lot of things he said, but about the rappers. Again, folks, I've been in the room with Trump when they call him, and it's a great conversation, and but when it comes to public, then it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game. Trump becomes kryptonite to Superman once it becomes public. This is The Other Side of Midnight. More with your telephone calls at 646-720-0635.
The Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Go, 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 shorty. It's your birthday. We gon' party like it's your birthday. We gon' sip Bacardi like it's your birthday. And you know we don't give a fuck, it's not your birthday. You'll find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug, you're into getting rough. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to feel the buzz. I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love. So come give me a hug, you're into getting rough. When I pull up out front, you see the Benz on dub. When I roll 20 deep, it's always drama in the club. Now that I roll with Dre, everybody show me love. When you sell like Eminem, you get plenty of groupie love. Look, homie, ain't nothing changed. Roll down, G's up. I see exhibit in the cutting, man. Roll them trees up. If you watch how I move, you mistake before I play up here. Been hit with a few shells, but I don't walk with a limp. In the hood, in the lady saying 50.
And we are back. The Other Side of Midnight. Dominic Carter here with you in for Frank Morano. I'm here for another hour. Then my colleague Noam Laden will take over. We're taking your telephone calls. Let's go to a first-time caller, St. Louis, listening on the great KMOX. Kurt, what's on your mind?
Thanks a lot, Dominic. Yeah, I'm a first-time listener also. And, you call it as you see it, and it's great. And I just want to say, I'm going to be listening to you all the time. But do you have a podcast or something where
we have a podcast, and I've been stating this, Kurt. I was in your great state maybe a month ago, delivering a speech up at the Lake of the Ozarks. Is that the way you pronounce it?
Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I thought it was a strange name, but it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in America, and I've been from Canada to all over the country speaking, mostly on the topics of mental illness, child abuse, and so on. My horrific upbringing myself, but yes, just Google Dominic Carter, and you'll see the podcast. You'll see, Kurt, that I have 2 daily live shows, Eastern Standard Time, 3 to 4 p.m., midnight to 1 a.m. And so you can find me 5 days a week. And on Saturdays, I do a left versus right show with former Congressman Anthony Weiner. But what was on your mind, Kurt? Anything you want to talk about specifically?
No, I just wanted to say, I'm just mesmerized by your show, and it's great. I agree with everything that you say. So, I'm just going to keep listening if that's, you know what I mean?
Fair enough, Kurt, and thank you for that. We really do appreciate it. Calling from KMOX, St. Louis, the great radio station there in St. Louis. And so, folks, what I told you, I wasn't joking about the National Association of Black Journalists. Again, I've been to about 15 conferences. I haven't been in years, right? But the way it goes, I'm telling you, I'm fessing up. Right? I may be in trouble, but I'm fessing up. I may be in trouble at home. Ooh, but I'm fessing up. Folks. This is the way it honestly works. By daytime, there are classes and ethical and ethics and ethical and ethics. But by nighttime, married or not, the females. I'm telling you what I know for a fact. And so myself, other male anchors from around the country, you see on television every day, dressed with the nicest suits they're wearing. And you come down at nighttime, whether you're in Seattle or LA or Philly, and you got on the nicest suits, and the nicest everything, and the women are everywhere. We're coming right back.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
I love this song. I do. I love it. The best part is coming up. It's coming up right now, America. The best part of the song. Let's do it.
Are you having fun, pal?
And good morning. You are listening to The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Dominic Carter, filling in for Frank Morano. We'll get to Chicago and Trump in just a second. Something I've been trying to figure out for months. Politicians bend over backwards for their constituents. They bend over backwards for their constituents because the constituents are the folks that put them in office and keep them in office. What's the net gain for bending over backwards for migrants? Yeah, politicians, they talk a good game about the legal requirements that you have to do this and you have to do that for migrants. But from Chicago to New York to Massachusetts, lots of places throughout the country, the migrant problem, the southern border. So in New York, for example, and we know the problems that Chicago has with migrants. Folks are not having it anymore. But in New York, a new migrant shelter will open next month at a former college dorm building in the swanky community of Riverdale in the Bronx. And yes, the residents should be concerned there because the neighborhood will be destroyed. To live in Riverdale, I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this. Okay. You have urban buildings, but you also have multi-million-dollar homes. It's almost like the suburbs within the city. It is a perfect environment to live in. You can go home if you live in Riverdale in your multi-million-dollar house or your multi-million-dollar condo, and almost forget that you're in an urban setting. And yet they are putting a migrant shelter in the Riverdale section of the Bronx at 435 West 238th Street. Now, this is a stone's throw away. You have some of the best private schools in the world in Riverdale. For example, the Fieldston School, where it cost $63,500 per year to attend Fieldston. And this migrant center is going to be a stone's throw away. Why would you do that? Why would you destroy a community, just like in Chicago, of taxpayers for people that pay no taxes? For people that are pimping the American people. Yes, I said pimping because that's what it is. Free, free, free. That's exactly what it is. Oh, how could you say that, Dominic? How could you say? Because it's the truth. Free medical care, free housing, free education, free daycare, free, free, free. Americans are going under. Americans are going under. But free, free, free. For migrants. Chicago. The Democrats are coming there very soon, again, for their convention. And Trump deserves an award for going into the lion's den when he knew what Trump did going into the Black Journalist Convention in Chicago was like having a bloody steak in your hand, and you're going in there to feed the alligators. That's what he did. And he said, I got this. They won't bite me. I got this. And he went in and fed the alligators, threw the steak, and then came back out and he's alive. That's what Trump did when he went before the Black journalists. I told you folks, this program, same time yesterday, it was going to make major national news, and that is exactly what happened. You have to understand, folks, that there's a lot of posturing that goes on. So before this panel, right, everybody, right? Me too. Everybody wants career opportunity. Everybody wants ka-ching, multi-million-dollar contracts. You have to understand that was going on. That's what was going on when Trump was questioned at the National Association of Black Journalists. The lead journalist from ABC News, this was her one time in life. There may not be another time. And this is the way these things go. This was her one time in life to show the world what she has. And she said, I'm going to be Trump's enemy. I'm going to be the one that takes him on for America. Madam Vice President, I'm going to do your bidding while we question Trump. I want you to hear the exchange. And I'm giving him credit because she was so rude, so nasty, so disrespectful right out the gate. And Trump, in Trump fashion, said, I don't think so.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe that black voters should trust you with another 4 years.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace. I
Let
really
me,
do.
let
I
me
think
just ask a
it's
follow-up,
disgrace.
sir, and then we'll move on.
Checkmate. Checkmate. Trump was correct to put her in her place. Things happen technology-wise, but when you're doing something at this magnitude, you bring in the big boys. You bring in the best technicians that money can buy. Any major debate that I did, for example, Hillary Clinton on down, or races for mayor of New York City, every contingency is planned. Before I even arrive at the venue to see it a few days in advance, the engineers and the producers have gone through every scenario that you could think of. If Dominic says this and his mic goes out, what do we do? If Dominic loses IFB connection to the control room, what's the backup plan? If one of the panelists goes over too long in terms of asking a question, how does Dominic rein them in? If Hillary Clinton is not receiving as much time as the opponent, how do we even the score? What do we do if protesters start yelling? All of these things. I'm not a meetings guy. I'm the type of guy that producers come up with the plan and then you give me the ball to deliver. And I deliver. That's what I do. I'm not a planner. And if you want me to sit in a bunch of planning meetings, you might as well bang my head on the table repeatedly. I'm almost like a caged animal if I've got to sit in the meetings. That's not what I do. You do the meetings and then give me the baton and I'm going to finish the race. And that's what happens. And so Trump is right. The man is running for president. Yes, he has his own aircraft, but he has a tight schedule he has to keep to. And you're going to hold him 35 minutes late? Because part of me says you wanted him to storm out of there so that you could have saved face with your members that were not happy and then spin it that Trump didn't like the questions he was going to face and he left. But he gave it to that reporter. She was under the bad assumption that as a woman of color and before an all-black crowd, that Trump would not strike back. Excuse me, Madam Journalist. Welcome to the real world. But don't worry, folks. Remember, I told you this. I promise you, you're going to see that young lady. Maybe not often, but once on The View, once or twice on The View. This was her audition tape. This is what happens in the world of journalism, right? Myself included. So when you're doing something big, how are you going to swing for the fences? But I do it with kindness. I may have the same aggression and I may be looking to rip your lungs out, but you'll never see it coming. You won't know it happened until it's already happened. And you'll be like, oh my God, he was so nice. He was smiling. And what did I just do? And this has happened a number of times with me and candidates literally ending their political careers. And they didn't see what was happening. So I'm looking at my Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. You can comment at Dominic TV. Catherine Trunk says, seating logistics, and she's so right, put Trump at a distinct disadvantage by having the antagonistic reporter right in his face. By contrast, Harris Faulkner from Fox was at the furthest seat from him. Now, Catherine, you are so correct. You're getting it. That's how these things go down. The National Association of Black Journalists under fire. So let's put the lead attack dog, if you will, right next to Trump. And she embarrassed herself, plain and simple. No journalism professor would be proud of her performance the way she carried herself. We will continue to let you hear what happened in Chicago just a few hours ago. This is the other side of midnight. We see your calls coming in from around the country. You can reach me at 646-720-0635.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I like this song as well. Dominic Carter here with you in for Frank Morano, The Other Side of Midnight. I like the song. I like the song. I do. Let's see here. Let's see. Where I will do anything that you want me to do. Yeah, I will almost anything that you want me to do. Yeah, but I can't go for that. No, can do. I can't go for that. Okay, I can't sing and I got the words wrong. But you have to give me an A for effort. You know, like the kids that get the trophies and they came in last place. Sort of like that. So, back to Chicago. Trump tore into his likely November opponent before black journalists, claiming he did not know Kamala Harris was black until recently.
Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me
a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question, a very direct question.
Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion.
Into the lion's den and did not back up the message. You got to give the man credit. You have to give him credit. We are taking your telephone calls from around the country, 646-720-0635. The Other Side of Midnight. We will let you hear the vice president's response that she gave on teleprompter from Houston. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. But for right now, some of your telephone calls. Ken in the great state of New Jersey. Ken, what's on your mind?
Okay. So I just wanted to make two comments. He was not putting down her ethnicity or her racial background. What he was criticizing was her use of her background to get votes. So, because if she was trying to get votes from a black community, she would say she was black. If she was trying to get votes from an Asian community, she would say she was Asian. So that's what he was criticizing. It wasn't her racial makeup. It was her use of her racial makeup to get votes. That's what he was criticizing. And my other comment about the DEI stuff, if you check back in American history of elections, practically every election, the vice presidential candidate was picked for certain political reasons, usually for the region or the state that they came from. So in other words, if the presidential candidate was from the North, they picked a vice presidential candidate from the South. It was to balance the ticket.
Yes.
And or from some state that the vice presidential candidate came from, because they wanted the electoral votes of that state. So the idea, and in her case, she was picked because they wanted minority votes.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But Ken,
it's not unusual.
But Ken, you can't say that. You can't say that because the left doesn't want to hear that. If you tell the truth about the situation, right? If you tell the truth, then the left says, "Oh, that's racist because you're focusing on DEI, and that's racist. That's racist. You can't do that." And no, it's not. And you're correct. You are correct in terms of what Mr. Trump had to say in Chicago. Folks, you are listening to The Other Side of Midnight, and I'm Dominic Carter, filling in for Frank Morano. Ken, I'm thinking about exactly what you said, and you're correct. You are 100% correct in your assessment. But what's the line in the movie? You can't handle the truth. And that's what happens. I mean, all Trump said was this is what she does, playing for the votes of the different community, manipulating constituents. There's nothing racist about that. And let me say this about DEI, Ken, right? So at this network, it was made crystal clear to me. You are not hired for your race. We don't do that. You're hired for who you are as a talent. So if they said, if the owners of this network, right, wherever you're listening to me from around the country, said, we need a prominent African-American to fill this slot, that's DEI. There's no getting around that. That would mean that they went looking for me specifically because I happen to be an African-American. That's DEI. And DEI is wrong. It's what's devastating America. And I thank you for that call. Let's go to Marianne in Queens, New York. Marianne, what's on your mind?
Well, I am just listening. And I did not like what they did, those reporters did to Trump in Chicago. Now, my question is why Rose and Steve, they are taking so personally the black card. The reason why I say that is because I am Spanish, and I despise all of these Spanish politicians that have been taking advantage of us and have been selling the community short. Why? $148,000 they got in New York. $175,000 they got in Congress. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, what she did for the Spanish people? Nothing. She actually killed 59,000 jobs that were supposed to be for black and Hispanics in Long Island City. So Idanis Rodriguez, an opportunistic that sell the Dominican people short, and now he has a very good position with the mayor. What about the other one, Espaillat? All of them have doing nothing for the community. Do you think that I'm going to take the fact that because I am Hispanic, I'm going to go for those people, those corrupted people that have nothing for the community? Why the blacks do not open up their eyes? Actually, we support the blacks more than what Biden and this old woman that now is running for president, Kamala Harris. What happened with those borders? What happened to those fentanyl that is coming to kill blacks here? The jobs that are falling through the window, and she was the one in charge to put an order on that and close those borders. She did nothing, and now she's using the black card because she was doing very well in Los Angeles, where she used a black man to achieve her political and financial agenda, and ended up with a white man. Now she's using the black community to do the same thing, using them to get in the White House and put a white man in place. She has to stop the hypocrisy and show what she is. I am so mad at this woman. She does not deserve to be not even the vice president. She doesn't deserve nothing. She used black men, black women to get her agenda. They have to kick her on the butt and get rid of her.
Okay, well, Marianne, I hear you, and if you are just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Dominic Carter in for Frank Morano. Marianne, people love who they love, right? So I'm not here to judge the vice president's marriage or to judge her past relationships, except for how they perhaps, and thank you for the call, how they play into the advances that she made, the rapid, fast advances that she made politically. So, people love whoever they love. That's not what I'm about here. And this is The Other Side of Midnight. We are taking your telephone calls from around the country. Let's go to Norman. Norman in Brooklyn, New York. Good morning, Norman. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Dominic. All right. I did not see a video of the Chicago, whatever it is, debate. Anyway, but I'm listening to it, on the radio, outtakes of it. And from what I hear, it sounds, I'm curious, it sounds at points that the audience was with Trump. From your what do you think? Was the audience with Trump at times?
Let's put it this way. Trump did very well. He wasn't booed, and that could have happened. And in fact, you could hear claps at certain points. I think that he did well. Again, the way that I see this, Norman, is Trump picked up a big, bloody, juicy steak and walked into the alligator pit and said, "I'm here to feed you guys," and somehow made it out, and the alligators didn't eat him alive. He gave him the steak, and then that's what he walked into before black journalists in Chicago. I think that he did very, very well. Thank you for the call, Norman. I want you to listen to something else that Trump talked about first, though. Here's the response that the vice president made to Trump, questioning whether or not she's playing up the fact that she's black, and he didn't know when she became black, that it's being done for political reasons. She is in Houston, Texas, and she was at a fundraiser, a fraternity fundraiser, and on teleprompter, this is the response that she gave.
Donald Trump spoke at the annual meeting of the National Association of Black Journalists. And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better. The American people deserve a leader who tells the truth, a leader who does not respond with hostility and anger when confronted with the facts. We deserve a leader who understands that our differences do not divide us. They are an essential source of our strength.
I would have a lot more respect for what the vice president just said if she spoke from the heart and said that, and it was not written into a speech for her to be delivered on teleprompter from Houston. Eventually, Madam Vice President, you're going to have to get off that teleprompter if you want to be taken seriously, that you're up for the job to lead this great country. Now, there was a issue that also came up, the case of Sonia Massey, right? Springfield, Illinois, a few hundred miles, I think 200 miles from Chicago. White shot in the face by a white police officer. She was having a mental health episode. The officer said he thought she was going to throw a pot of hot water on him, and it was him and another officer. And she was again having a mental health episode in which she said they were trying to help her. Everybody was laughing. They said before everything went left, and the officer said, "Go turn off the fire." So this was not a fire, and all of a sudden she said, in the middle of this mental health episode, she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And the officer started using profanity, and he said, "I'll shoot you in the face." And that's exactly what happened. And he's charged with murder, first-degree murder, no bail, in jail as we speak. A deputy sheriff, and you knew Trump was going to be asked this question. It was supposed to be a loaded question. This was supposed to be the headline out of the conversation with black journalists. But even on this one, Trump handled it well.
So Sonia Massey, someone from Illinois, an unarmed black woman, was shot the other day in her home by a deputy sheriff. The deputy has since been charged with murder. You've said police would get immunity from prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something. And it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either.
Okay.
But again,
are they going to be charging the officer? I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
you
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And they have the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision, and sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
And that's why I have a lot of respect for Trump. The same message before an all-black crowd, the same message before a white crowd. Same exact message. And that was supposed to be the question that tripped Trump up, but it wasn't. In fact, he handled all of the questions well. Let's go back to the telephones. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Dominic Carter in for Frank Morano. My colleague is coming up, Noam Laden, at the top of the hour. Joaquin in Pennsylvania. What's on your mind?
Hey, return of Dominic. Return of Dominic.
Well, thank
return
you.
Of Dominic.
What's on your
the
mind?
Frank Morano show. Hey, you know what, Dominic? Donald Trump handled everything very well. But, when the subject was brought up about DEI, he could have said that Joe Biden actually proclaimed her as a DEI hire. And also, too, when this whole thing was brought up about, him questioning Obama's citizenship, he should have brought up the fact that it was Hillary who actually started that. Now, as far as these shootings with, these police officers go, there's a whole lot of police officers that have been unjustly prosecuted and convicted. And, of course, what looks bad for this guy is, the way he cursed and he used profanity. But, yeah, that's a precarious situation.
I'm listening to you, and no one would want a pot of scalding hot water thrown on them. But the distance seemed like, from what I could see, based on the body cam video, he had enough time, enough space to back up. I don't want a Monday morning quarterback situation, because police officers have to make life and death decisions in a second, and then they're second guessed for the rest of their life over a decision that's made. But I don't think that this officer, the language that he used was not appropriate. His past is somewhat checkered. Not somewhat. His past is checkered. A couple of DUI arrests, and one of the reasons why he was dismissed from the military, worked for a number of sheriff offices, I think 6 and 4 years, something like that. I do thank you for the call, Joaquin. Let's now go to Bob. Bob is calling from WCBM, East Ford, Annapolis, Maryland. And good morning to you, Bob. What's on your mind?
Good morning. Great show, Dominic.
Thank you.
Always like you with Frank, the first 20 minutes or so. No, I want to make a quick comment. First, when Donald Trump dissed John McCain and all the down flyers who were POWs, well, the U.S. Army Air Force, 8th Air Force, World War II, there were 10,000 killed and about 35,000 taken prisoner. And that was really disrespecting the forefathers of a lot of people alive today. That's one thing. And the other thing, Trump said something about he wanted to have a cabinet member of retribution. And that's not nice.
Okay, so Bob, so your bottom line, how are you tying this in with the news of the day?
Oh, the news of the day. Well, if you're talking about the black journalists, he was not correct in just trying to diss Kamala Harris for flipping back and forth. I think that was kind of sophomoric.
So what would you have him have done?
Oh, what would I? Well, he's entitled to his own opinion.
No, I understand, but you see, it's easy for us, the Monday morning quarterback. What would you have him have done?
Oh, I can't put my words in Trump's mouth.
Okay, all right, but fair enough. Thank you. Fair enough, Bob, and thank you for the call from WCBM, East Ford, Annapolis, Maryland. Let's go to Simon, line 1, Brooklyn, New York. Good morning, Simon, and welcome to the other side of midnight.
Dominic, how you doing? Today, I watched the whole thing with the debate and
the debate. What debate?
With the newscast. With the
with Trump answering questions before black journalists.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. He was phenomenal. The crowd clapped many times. There was no boos, and I think the crowd spoke for itself. They tried to be hard on him. He did a great job, and I think he was amazing. He was smooth. And he didn't have to read it off a computer.
This is true.
It was amazing, which is incredible. Just everything flew like he speaks like a 30-year-old person. This guy is amazing. And one more thing I'd like to bring up, what happened with Israel yesterday. I know we didn't speak about it, but they knocked off 2 big terrorists. And today they came out and they're giving the guy from 9/11, they're giving him life. it's incredible. Like
a deal. They reached a deal with some of these terrorists that are being held in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
Exactly, and this was the biggest one. And it looks like they killed this Ismail Nahania and the one in Iran. And they want to, like, someone wants to sympathize with this. It's like I just got the chills. You know, we lost so many people 9/11.
Yeah, I agree with you, Simon. I have zero sympathy. Thank you for the call. Zero sympathy for the Hamas leader that was killed. I have zero sympathy for Hamas. I think they should be terminated from the face of the earth. And this is The Other Side of Midnight. Dominic Carter in for Frank Morano. When we come back, more of your telephone calls, 646-720-0635.
The Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black.
Donald Trump spoke at the annual meeting of the National Association of Black Journalists. And it was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The America better. The America better. The America better. The America better.
Okay, we are back.
Better.
We are back, folks, and we're taking your telephone calls. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Dominic Carter here with you. Let's go to Ray, I believe in Raritan, New Jersey. Good morning, Ray. What's on your mind? Ray, are you with me?
You hear me?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. You know, she said Donald Trump was disrespecting people or whatever. But
do me a favor, Ray. Turn down the radio in the background, folks. If you have the radio on,
no, it's not my radio.
Oh, okay.
I'm at work.
Okay, you're at work. Okay, because it's something in the background. But go ahead. You're at work. Go ahead.
Because I'm at work. I'll make it fast.
Okay, go ahead.
She says he disrespected people or whatever. That lady journalist comes out of the bat disrespecting him. What do you expect him to do? You know,
right? Well, you know, we're not supposed to focus on that. You know, we're supposed to focus on the fact that Trump is the boogeyman and he should take it all. But go ahead, Ray.
But what kind of question is that? Asking if she's a DEI hire? What does that have to do with anything of the things that are going wrong in this country? Where's our president right now?
I hear you. I hear you, Ray. But you have to understand, we're in the world of got you journalism. And everybody's trying to get to the view. You know, they show me the money. That's what this is about. Show me the money. If I can hit a grand slam, if I can hit the ball out the park, I'll get a call. Thank you for the call, Ray. I'll get a call from the producers of The View, and I'll be on national TV. Rawr, rawr. Look at me, Mom. I'm a star. That's what this is about. Paul in Manhattan, line 1. Good morning, Paul. You're on The Other Side of Midnight.
Yeah, hi, Dominic. I have a couple of comments and a question.
It's got to be quick because we have a lot of calls. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yes. One is I think you're amazing. I remember watching you on New York One, and the way you interview people. You have a quality where you never offend anybody. And I'm wondering why that is with you, why you're so good at it. And that's one of the issues.
You know why?
with Trump.
You know why, Paul? Because I've had a rough upbringing. No father, mentally ill mother, raised by my grandmother. I'm not supposed to be here. I am supposed to be dead or in jail, as I was told by a high school guidance counselor who happened to be African American, who told me that I would be dead or in jail. And I went on to college and was able to, courtesy of the taxpayers, and was able to graduate in 3 years. And then I realized that I'm not as dumb as I think I am. And then I went on to graduate school at Syracuse University, the Newhouse School for Journalism. Quickly, one more point before I go on to Diane, listening on WGN. Quickly, Paul, please.
Well, just I wonder why Trump misses the boat. He's getting better on that, and I like his policies, and many people do. He makes mistakes where he is cruel to people, and I don't think he really wants to be. But I just wondered why you're so good and not doing that. You're also very brilliant, and he keeps making that mistake.
I hear you. I don't think he made a mistake. I hear you, Paul. But also I went into journalism, and I firmly believe, and I'll take this to my grave, you treat people the way that you want to be treated. That's why I'm calm 90% of the time. 90% of the time, maybe 85, maybe 75% of the time. Diane on WGN in Chicago. Diane, good morning. What's on your mind?
Hi, Dominic. I watched that whole thing because I like to see something from beginning to end, and then see how the media then skews it and takes out certain things. And they do this every time with anything. It's always about making something a certain way that it isn't. But right away, that MSNBC, right away she was hollering about it was a tirade, epic this, calling him, people were booing him. That wasn't at all the case. And he was right when he first came on. And she gives him this question right away, that Miss Brown from ABC. Right away, she talks about every kind of quote he ever said before about black people, and she rattles it all off. He replied that this is the most rude introduction that I ever had. In other words, he said, you didn't say hello. You know what I mean? He really told her that this was how she gave that. He didn't address those things, but of course he knows that people are always going to say that he did this or that. And I suppose there were certain quotes that he has that over the, you get the idea. Then the one on the far end, he kept saying he couldn't hear her very well. And he said, it's because of these microphones. He said, that's why you kept me waiting for 30 minutes. And he referred to that all the time. Well, the media later was saying that, no, he was in a fury because of Kamala not being there, and that's why he was late.
He was set up. And Diane, this is what happens a lot. It's called a bait and switch. So the producers will say, well, your opponent is going to be here. And then that will make your campaign pay attention. Otherwise, you will get ignored. And so when they say Kamala Harris is going to be here, then the Trump campaign says, oh, we got to be there as well. And then he found out it was a bait and switch and that she's not going to be there. Please continue as we're wrapping up this hour. Go ahead.
Right. And they call him a liar. You know what I mean? And so, it's so dangerous how the big media will take it and run with it. And that one woman at the end was fairly civil to him, and she was somebody he respected.
Yes,
more so it seemed. But he couldn't hear her very well, and I think that was true because they said the audience couldn't hear it, but he couldn't hear very well. But that was good that he clarified that.
Yes.
Then she said something too, and that she said, when I interviewed you the day before of Saturday, July 13th, I interviewed you the day before, and you said something. You said it twice, and it was something I forgot. It has to do with J.D. Vance.
It was something to the effect of
about his vice president, whoever he picks.
Well, no, but she was referring to. He made a reference to what was going to happen in Pennsylvania before it happened. So he almost saw it. That's what, Diane, I have to step in because I'm completely out of time. Diane joining us from the great WGN in Chicago, where Trump was at the convention for the National Association of Black Journalists. You want to keep it right here. My colleague Noam Laden is standing by. He's standing by and ready to go for the next 2 hours of The Other Side of Midnight. Noam will be taking your call at 646. Your calls at 646-720-0635. Have a great day, folks.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
All right. Wake everybody up. This is The Other Side of Midnight. It is me, Noam Laden, the news director at the home station, WABC, filling in for my good buddy Frank, who's drinking cases of Tab Cola. Why anybody would want to drink that or even seek it out is beyond me. Down at the Jersey Shore. Don't worry, though. He will be back on Monday morning. So you have me right up until, well, whatever the next 2 hours are for you, depending where you are across the country. I don't want to mess with your mind about what time it is. It's 6 minutes after the hour. How about that? Before the morning is out. Oh, my God, I'm looking at this list of things I want to talk about. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of them, but talking about this new trend of cohabitation, people not getting married across the country, the idea of people... this guilt-free chocolate bar. You know, we're in this new age, which is amazing, where you can eat whatever you want and then take these shots that make you lose weight. Either the Ozempic, and then there's like 5 other brands of I forget the names of the other ones. But there's somebody, everything, by the way, in my life happens in the dog park because I seem to spend an enormous amount of time there. There's a woman there who's lost... It's got to be 100 pounds, at least 100 pounds, doing the Ozempic. She was a big woman. I love her. I love hanging out with her. It's enormously entertaining when we have our dogs there in the dog park. She's just lost a ton of weight doing the Ozempic. But I will point out, it's interesting. We all went out for drinks one night after being in the dog park, dropped our dogs off, went out for drinks. It's unbelievable what garbage she eats. But that's the great part about Ozempic is... as long as she's on the shot, and she said to me, Noam, I'm going to be on this shot for the rest of my life. I'll just take it for the rest of my life. Big deal. Now, granted, you know, the food probably doesn't do other things good for her heart, but I was like, oh, and she continues to lose weight. So, like, I'm sitting in there sort of trying to watch myself, but, you know, also having a good time eating. And she's like, I mean, it just keeps coming.
What was she eating?
She was eating just all this heart-stopping stuff. It was like the wings and the blue cheese and the cheeseburger, and she had the fries.
But that's still going to clog up your arteries whether you're thin or not.
No, but you'll still look good.
Yeah, she'll look good, but she'll still die the same time.
Yeah.
She just won't be fat.
Yeah.
So now she'll be thin.
Right.
So what?
Well, but I'm telling you, she already looks pretty good. She's got a little more ways to go, so good for her. So I want to talk about that before the morning is out. The Olympics continues in Paris. The huge day yesterday. You had LeBron James, the men's basketball team. They were playing South Sudan. And even if you're not an Olympics fan or a basketball fan for that matter, you might guess that South Sudan probably doesn't put up a great basketball team when it comes to the Olympics. I mean, I can't even come up with somebody who's on the South Sudan team who's in the NBA. Maybe there's a player or two I don't know about. But Team USA in the warm-ups to the Olympics almost lost to South Sudan. But yesterday, when it all counted, they just blew them apart. It wasn't even close. So that was fun to watch. The U.S. women's national soccer team continues group play with a match against Australia. Despite having gone into the Olympic match with a significant penalty, the Canadian women's soccer team defeated Colombia to advance to the quarterfinals. Now, you might be saying, why are you telling me about Canada? Well, Canada is the reigning gold medalist, and they managed to score in the second half. They held on to this 1-zip lead to beat Colombia, which was a big deal. But the reason that everybody is down on Canada, it's a huge comeback for the squad that was given an automatic penalty of 6 points after Team Canada coaches were using drones to spy on opponents. You never would expect that from Canada, but apparently they were. The Canadian players say they were not aware of the cheating, and the appeals to overturn the punishment failed. Yet the squad prevailed, beating a Colombia team. You know, Colombia's great at soccer, winning all 3 of its Group A matches in a surprising comeback. So we'll watch Team Canada. Katie Ledecky, boy, she's been fun to watch. The swimmer continues to rewrite the record book. She took home her first gold medal of the Olympics yesterday, dominated the field in the 1,500-meter freestyle race. I mean, I got to be honest, there's only so much swimming I can watch. I mean, they dive into the pool, you watch them go back and forth, and they win. But just her dominance of the sport has been spectacular, and I imagine that'll continue to be the case. Team USA winning a medal in the BMX freestyle thing. I didn't get a chance to watch that. Does anybody know if the breakdancing thing has happened yet? That's the one I'm really waiting for, is to see how the breakdancing goes.
I think it's on the weekend.
Oh, the breakdancing?
The breakdancing at the very end.
And how do we judge next week? What is it, 11 days, the Olympics?
Yeah, so I think maybe it's this weekend. I heard it was on a weekend.
And they judge it how? How do they judge breakdancing? Is it just the moves, your style?
I'm sure it's like the same way they would do like something like gymnastics. It's got to be moves, how you do the move, the style, like how you would just judge a dance competition. Right. I would think it's going to be the same.
Like gymnastics, they'll score it like on like you get a 10. The judges give 4 10s, 5 10s, whatever.
Well, it doesn't really work that way anymore. It kind of does.
Oh, they don't do that anymore?
They do, but they don't. It's like so this is like really hard to explain now. So every gymnast, it has a difficulty score. And depending on how difficult your moves are, gets a higher score.
I gotcha.
So some people don't start off with the highest score depending on how difficult your moves are. So like Simone Biles, because she's so incredible, her difficulty is off the charts.
Right.
So if she does her moves correctly, she can get a higher score than somebody else because their difficulty already doesn't start
at her level.
High. Right.
So breakdancing is going to be the same way.
I don't know if it's going to be like that or just judge like a dance competition.
So do we have to worry? Does this still happen? Like the Russians give us less of a score because we're the Americans. Does that still go on?
I don't
Is that
think
Cold
so.
War nonsense still happening?
I want to know, like, who are the breakdance judges? Are they going to get some of the people that like started breakdancing in the Bronx in 1981?
No.
Are they going to be? Why not?
Well,
Crazy Legs is still around. He could be a judge.
Yeah, what was that movie that was really big in the 80s about?
Well, there was 2. There was Breakin'.
Oh, right, Breakin', right.
And then Beach Street.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Beach Street was the one that was set in New York.
Right.
That had all the crews from New York. And those guys are still alive. A lot of them are. So they could be the judges. Or the guy who was in Breakin'.
Should be a judge. Are they still alive?
Well, one of them did just die last year, Angel Quiones, who played Ozone in the movie Breakin', who was part of the Lockers. Now, the Lockers were this crew that you'd always see them performing on Soul Train. And a lot of people don't realize this, that you remember Tony Basil?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, Mickey, you're so fine?
Mm-hmm.
She was in the Lockers.
Really?
She was a dancer. And another person that you don't know that was also part of the Lockers, Fred Berry, a.k.a.
what was his name? Don't tell me. Hey, Raj. No, what was his name?
Well, that was the other guy.
Right, I can't think. Rerun, right.
Fred Berry, a.k.a. Rerun, was also in the Lockers. And if you watch old clips of them on Soul Train, they do the exact same moves that those guys performed in the movie Breakin'. So Angel Quiones, he's gone, but Michael Chambers, who played Turbo in the movie, he's still alive and considered one of the greatest breakdancers of all time. So if they got that guy as a judge, like that's who should be judging.
But it's not. It's going to be some random guy who's like a choreographer or something like that.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to check out if they already listed who the judges will be. We'll find out.
Speaking of what's happening, which was the show that Fred Berry was on. It was on for like 6 seasons. Then they brought it back for a little while.
Yeah, it was on for like I think it was on for like 3 seasons.
By the way, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved that show.
Oh, it was the greatest show ever.
Yeah. So
Roger, no rerun, no rent.
Yeah.
No
right.
Roger, no rerun, no
right,
rent.
Exactly.
Hey, what's happening?
So the guy who did Hey, Raj, what was his name?
Dwayne.
Yeah, but what was his real name?
Haywood Nelson.
So Haywood Nelson was doing some sort of tour. This was like young in my career. So we're going back 20 years probably. And they offered him up to me, and I was at this tiny little dinky station where you couldn't hear it past the parking lot. We'd signal up, and nobody even knew we were on there. But somehow I got offered to have it do a one-on-one. But he was, and I apologize if this is wrong, but I think this was true. He was a what's the thing that Tom Cruise is? The religion he is. He's a what's it called?
Scientologist.
Scientologist, right. So I could interview him, but at some point he get to talk about Scientology.
Right.
And so, of course, all I wanted to talk about was what's happening.
Of course.
And he realized the time was running out. And my idea was I was just going to run the table until he had to leave and not talk about Scientology because who cares, right? But about 6 minutes in or 4 minutes in, I think he gave me 10 minutes. He realized what my plot was, and he turned on me and started talking about Scientology. So.
Wow. So he blew you up. He knew that you just wanted to talk about what's happening and what's happening now.
Right.
That was the follow up.
When they brought it back.
Yeah. What's happening? That was a good show. I think that lasted as long as
the original series.
The original one.
Yeah.
I couldn't be funnier.
Couldn't get enough of that show.
Yeah. 66 episodes of what's happening now. 65 episodes of what's happening.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Good for them. They made a little extra cash afterwards.
Yeah.
This is not the biggest news overnight, but we continue to have a problem in the studio. They're called sewer. What do they call these insects?
Drain flies.
Drain flies. And so someone left me a device that I can zap them with, like a zapper. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to hear that because they're all over the place here, but I'm going to turn this zapper on, and it looks like a tennis racket. And if you zap one, it makes that really incredibly satisfying zapping sound. And there's just a ton of them in here today. Actually, for a couple of days, we weren't having any sort of issue. Wait, there's one. Hold on. Oh, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Really?
Yeah, I heard the
Oh, my
crackle.
God, that was so cool. I just zapped that one. Hold on. There's another one I saw. Oh, wait, right near the microphone. Hold on. Wait.
Don't hit the mic.
No, I don't. Oh, my God, this is great. I don't know if this is interesting, but I'm having a fun time. Let's see.
So I'm watching Noam trying to swat.
They're so small, you can't see them.
Yeah, they look like
so
they look
annoying.
like gnats.
Yeah,
but they're not gnats.
They're a little bigger.
And that thing you're holding looks like a Wii controller, like a Nintendo Wii controller.
Yes,
because it's white and it looks like basically a giant ping pong paddle.
And it's lit up purple. And I don't know if
yeah, it's a little smaller than a tennis racket, but bigger than a ping pong paddle. So it looks like a giant ping pong paddle.
You know, the minute
is
I turn
a pickleball paddle, are they that size?
This is a little smaller than a pickleball.
And it's got the fluorescent black lights on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're trying to swat this thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I'm not going to be able to find one. Of course, there was like 100 around my mouth 2 seconds ago. But anyway,
they'll come back.
Yeah.
Let's keep talking.
Yeah. Overnight, maybe you saw this, by the way. Want to catch up on some of the stories. 3 of the 5 9/11 defendants at Guantanamo Bay, including the alleged mastermind, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, reaching this plea agreement with prosecutors. Now, if you're like me, you were like, really? We hadn't resolved this already? I mean, I knew that we hadn't, but I had forgotten about it. So Gary Sowards was the lead attorney, Mohammed confirming this to ABC News on Wednesday, that the agreement does not include the death penalty, but it does mean these people will essentially serve their life in prison. The trial of the 5 9/11 conspirators had been stuck in these legal delays for, 23 years. No details about the specific terms and conditions of the pretrial agreement were made to the public. I actually spoke, I shouldn't say spoke, but I texted with one of the family members. But of course, you know that we're doing the show out of New York City. And so many of us have contacts to people or know people who lost one in the 9/11 attacks. And I said, what do you think about this? And he said for him, he had moved on a long time ago, not from the death of his brother, but he had moved on a long time ago about caring about what happened to these people involved in the 9/11 attacks, the masterminds who have been in Guantanamo Bay. Now, that is not the same for some of the 9/11 families. Some of the other ones are really outspoken overnight, saying they don't like that this kind of agreement was made and that these 4 deserve the death penalty. So there's a wide swath of disagreement and agreement about this ultimate, plea deal that was made with these 4 Muhammad, Walid Muhammad, Sheikh Mubarak bin Atash, Mustafa Ahmed Adam al-Asawawi, Anyway, I'm sure I'm butchering their names, but really doesn't care because they're just awful human beings who, for sure, probably should be given the death penalty. But at some point, they made this plea deal, and they're just going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. All right, we have more to get to in a moment. The world is sort of on fire and has been, and so I want to know what the future holds. Are things going to get better? So I'm going to bring somebody in who's going to tell me and give me some firm ideas about whether the future is going to get better, maybe some predictions on the election and that kind of thing. We're going to get into that in a moment, so hold on. It's Noam Laden in for Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. It is a Frank-free Thursday. Noam Laden in for the vacationing Frank Morano, down with his case of Tab Soda down at the Jersey Shore. He'll be back on Monday. So when we went to break, I was talking about how just doesn't the world feel like it's on fire? It doesn't matter where you look, just kind of crazy stuff going on. And I wanted to get a sense of what is in our future. What can we expect in the coming months, maybe in the coming year? And I thought, who better to bring on than one of the more world-famous astrologers? Her name is Terry Nazon. Maybe you know her. She has been around for a long time. She's gotten things dead on in a lot of her predictions over the years. And how crazy is this? She was willing to get up at this ridiculous hour and talk to us because, well, she thinks this is as important as I do. And she's on our Newsmaker line. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's so great to talk to you.
Wonderful to be on with your audience. And it's an exciting time. It's a perilous time, but it's an exciting time, right?
It is. I'm ultimately an optimist. So even when I see terrible things going on in the world, I say ultimately things do get better.
And I'm an optimist too. And I'm about, that history always repeats itself. And I think that, when we talk about astrology, we talk about cycles, astrological cycles. And so we can always rely on, that the planets have been cyclical for, eons and eons, and things always repeat themselves as they are now.
Tell me, Terry, for people who are not familiar with you, I mean, you've been around for a long time and a lot of people do know who you are, but tell me how you became an astrologist.
I've always been interested in astrology, even when I was 5 and 6 years old. I remember my mother, listening to horoscopes on the radio. That's how they used to play them. And she said, "I'm a Leo." And I thought, well, what am I? And she said, you're a Capricorn, a goat. And I'm thinking to myself, well, don't lions eat goats? And so I think that piqued my interest.
And how old you were? 6 at the time, huh?
6 years old.
Wow.
And I've always had a love for it, even when it wasn't, nice to do so, or people, didn't look upon astrology, in a good way, like they do now. Everybody knows when Mercury retrograde is, right?
Right. Do they?
Yeah, they do. I even see it it come across now on, the little strand of Bing News. It's, they're telling you when the solar eclipses are, and they're saying when Mercury goes retrograde now.
And people follow that stuff. And
exactly.
So at what point do you go, so you're 6 years old, and of course now you're fascinated at 6 years old. When do you actually turn this into a really successful full-time occupation?
I was a financial consultant, first of all, and I had a degree in finance. But I started to make more money in astrology. people were just, throwing money at me to, tell them, what their future hold. And I guess I was just better at it than a lot of other people.
And so
I guess you follow what you're good at, right?
Of course. And I imagine what you love, right? I mean, that's part of it too.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So do you have things over the years that you've predicted that you're really proud of that you got right?
No, I don't think of it like that because, astrology moves very fast. So every single day, I'm looking at the configurations in the stars and I move on from every prediction. I'm not, I predicted that and I predicted this. No, I just keep moving.
So if I call you, and by the way, it's Terry Nazon, I'll spell it for you, TerryNazon, terrynazon.com. If I call you, I can ask you about anything going on in my life and you can give me some good advice. Is that how it works?
Absolutely. That's how it works.
And do people, I'm going to ask you about all kinds of different events that I want sort of some, predictions for. Do people do that when they call you too, or is it all personal?
No, I have people calling me about business, work opportunities, employment. Their finances now is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Marriage. I do. I had an association with. I was on Millionaire Matchmaker several times. So predicting marriage is a huge thing, not just in the United States, but in other countries of the world also. So I do a big worldwide business. Not just in the United States, but Canada, in the Middle East, India, all over the world.
So when people call you about that, be curious how this works. If I'm calling you to know if my marriage is going to last, what are you going to ask me?
I'm just going to get your date of birth.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That is it. That is it.
I'd be curious, but I almost don't want to know about that. I mean, I think my marriage is great, so hopefully it's going to last. So I'm not even going to bother asking you about that. Tell me, there's so much going on in the world and some big events that we're waiting to see how they resolve themselves. One of the ones that I would think most Americans want to know about right now is whether Andy Cohen is going to bring back the Real Wives of New Jersey cast next season. Do you know if he's going to do that? I know that's not the biggest event, but I'm curious. If you had to guess, there's all this talk.
He would. I would say yes.
Yes. Really?
Yeah.
Because that's bigger to me than even knowing the outcome of the election. I'm completely addicted to that show. So he's going to bring back this cast. They're fighting. They're feuding.
He's had quite a year too, right?
What? Well, I know he has a couple kids, right?
Well, but he's had some controversy, and my guess is that there could be a few changes, but I wouldn't expect that he's going to make fundamental turnovers.
Are you a fan of that show?
I love The Housewives.
Oh, you do? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I realize it's trash television, but I find myself sitting on the couch watching it. I can't help myself. All right, let's go on to issues that people actually care about. I'm not ones that I care about. So here we are. Let's see if you could, and you tell me if this is some of your expertise. So Kamala Harris has the first big decision of her political campaign. She's going to pick a VP in the coming days. Does any thoughts come to you about what she might do and who she might pick? And hold on before you even tell me that decision. 1 second, because we are 30 minutes after the hour. This is the other side of midnight. So you have any thoughts about who she might pick for her VP?
I feel that she may go with Josh Shapiro.
Okay.
Because I think, I feel like that looks like a good fit for her.
Josh Shapiro. I agree. I think that's a smart money would be him, but, that's the vibe you're getting is that it's going to be Josh Shapiro.
That's I haven't really looked at any, I've looked at Kamala's chart, but I haven't really looked at any of the VP's chart.
Tell me, what does Kamala's chart say?
All right. Let me pick it up right here. So, she's kind of like the underdog, isn't she?
At this point, I guess, the polls have it either even or Trump ahead a little bit.
Well, I mean, when I say the underdog, after the whole, Joe Biden fiasco, that we all watched on TV. And Joe Biden, he is a fixed sign, just like Trump is. Trump's a Leo rising. He's a Gemini, but he's a Leo rising, which is really affecting his chart. And I feel that in the greater scheme of things, what we have going on is that, he does need to be very careful. Donald Trump does need to be very careful because there was already one attempt on his life. And because of the way that the planets are, that there could be other attempts on his life also.
Wow. Well, that's a little frightening to hear.
Well, better you know than you don't, right?
And what can you get that?
If you were him, wouldn't you want to know? Then you'd shore up your security, right?
Yeah, well, and absolutely. Obviously, they've already done that. But is that information you can get to him so he knows that there's a potential for another person to try to take him out?
Well, he didn't call me, and if he would have called me, I would have advised him not to pick J.D. Vance.
Oh, really? No, why is that?
So, Donald Trump is a Leo rising, 29-degree Leo rising. J.D. Vance is a Leo. So you never really want anybody's sun in your 12th house because that would suggest that you don't really know that person. And it seems to me that, J.D. Vance in his chart, that he's not really showing his true colors. Like he's being whoever you want him to be at the moment.
And now that you said they're both Leos?
Donald Trump is a Leo rising. He's a Gemini, but he's a Leo rising. J.D. Vance is a Leo, so that puts his Leo sun in Donald Trump's 12th house. And we never want somebody's sun shining into our 12th house because the 12th house is your secrets. It's what you rather suppress or ignore. And, it recently came out that, J.D. Vance had said all this negative stuff about Donald Trump, which, probably, made Donald feel a little, like, oh, my God, I didn't really know this person, right?
Do you think he'll stay on the ticket? What does the future hold for J.D. Vance? Could Donald Trump drop him?
I don't think that Donald Trump is going to drop him at this point. And I think he's going to move ahead with it.
And what does Donald Trump's chart say past? God forbid there's another assassination attempt. What does his chart say past that?
So sometimes sometimes in astrology you do want to know the pitfalls. You do want to know the dangers. So that you can head them off or you can prepare for them. So if you're going to have a bad day, you want to know that, right?
Well, that's true. So if Donald Trump had called you before that July 13th assassination attempt, you would have told him on the phone that, hey, I'm seeing something that I don't like.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it is the sort of like the opinion of many astrologers that his chart is afflicted.
So
Not just me.
What does this chart say in terms of what it holds for the next couple months for him? Is this going to be a good time, a rough time?
Well, the problem with his chart is that he has, he has that foot and mouth disease.
He showed it last night, I guess, didn't he?
And so he has, he's going to keep, doing that. And the closer that the election gets, the more that foot and mouth disease comes out.
Yeah. So you would warn him about that.
Yeah, but I don't know that he would take my advice. He's a Leo rising. I don't know that they take advice easily.
Well, over the years, we've always heard about all these different presidential candidates and people who are in the White House who really relied on people like you. Do you know if Donald Trump is somebody who uses an astrologer?
Like I said, I don't think so, because if he had used an astrologer, they would have told him not to choose J.D. Vance as his running mate, right?
Right.
So obviously, because in astrology you can compare two charts and you can see how they interact. You can see if somebody's honest with you or not, or they're just using you as a ladder up a step up to success. You can see a lot about the person's personality and how it relates to you. Do they like me? Do they not like me?
We're talking with world-famous astrologer Terry Nazon. You can find her at terrynazon.com, and it's TerryNazon, terrynazon.com. Let's look at Kamala Harris's chart. What does her chart say?
So Kamala Harris is a Libra, and and she's a funny Libra. She likes we get that funny laugh with her, and she's also a late degree Gemini rising with the North Node on her ascendant. So there's a real push with her to get ahead. I think it's going to be a very close race between her and Donald Trump, even though it's already widely known in astrological circles that the way that the planets are, we are headed for somewhat of like a civil war, because some of the planets are changing signs around, let me say, May-ish, and these were the same positions of those planets whenever the United States was in the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. So there does seem to be like a need for correction.
So what are you suggesting, that there's going to be some big sort of world event before the election takes place?
Bottom line. Pluto is the planet Pluto rules power. He also rules age. And it is like they're talking, everyone's talking about give it over to a new generation, let somebody else, get some younger folks in here, to rule. And we're already seeing like in Venezuela, Maduro, the protests going on. So there's these worldwide, protests, and no matter which way it goes, those people who are in power have tried to hang on to power. Those are the people who are most susceptible right now to protests and creating unrest, in our country and, worldwide.
Do you think there'll be some other big event? I mean, because let's go back. I mean, you think about how crazy it's been, Terry, right? So you had the debate with President Biden and former President Donald Trump. And of course, we found out things about Joe Biden that many of us did not know in that debate, right?
That was collectively, that was, like shocking.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for a lot of people, it was shocking how bad it was. We knew he was old. Yeah.
Right. We knew he was old, but we couldn't, we saw it there. You couldn't hide it. So that's these outer planets with these events that are collectively shock us. That oh my God, that's terrible. Like when someone of renown or someone famous dies suddenly, or what we saw with, Joe Biden in the debate, like, oh my God, that's shocking. We were heartbroken. We felt bad, collectively, not everybody, but,
Yes, a lot of people were pretty excited when they saw how bad off he was.
Exactly.
Yeah. They were like, oh, I think we can kick him off the stage. And we went from that.
Right, exactly.
And so we went from that was a wild thing that I don't remember for sure anything like that in my lifetime, to the assassination attempt, which also, I mean, just beyond,
on
that
TV,
was awful.
We all saw it.
Right.
It was like, oh my God. It was, so we got these events that are like, oh my God, it's absolutely shocking. And this is kind of what is going to be coloring, our events for like maybe, the next year, like these overwhelmingly, shocking events that we all see. Imagine, when we see an accident, we see an assassination attempt, we see, and it just affects us as a whole, and so we're going to see more of those kind of events. Now, getting back to Kamala Harris.
Before you do, though, so we had those three big events, right? So we had the debate, we had the assassination attempt, and then, somebody sitting in the White House dropping out of the race. That hadn't happened since LBJ.
Right.
So is there some other big event that you can see that may happen before the election? Is there going to be, because it's been a crazy summer already. I don't know how much more we can take.
Yeah. Well, I think is that very close to the election, I think something else with Donald Trump is going to take place. And it may just be that, he's going to say or do something that just, turns people off. So we may see, his numbers pretty good, and then all of a sudden, horrible.
And
so he may do something or say something, like I said, that foot and mouth disease that he has, could get to him. So that's pretty much, I feel like it's going to be the next, event, because it's going to remind us, like, when he was president, how we were like, he was on the news, every single day. And he was always saying something like that was, shocking to a lot of people. Right.
And when would that event happen, do you think? If there was something that really just took everybody and shocked everybody, would that be closer to the election?
Probably going to be pretty close to the election in October.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
he could just say something that just, winds people up or something.
We are talking with world famous astrologer Terry Nazon. It's a TerryNazon, terrynazon.com. What does Kamala Harris's chart tell you?
Kamala Harris's chart, she's a Gemini rising, and I feel like, like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty close race. I'm a little partial to her to think that she could win, but I also feel that it may be Donald Trump that wins.
Wait, so you can't give us a definitive, huh? Because that's what I want to know.
I think Donald Trump edges Kamala out.
Oh, okay. So you are making predictions. So you think Donald Trump, even if he has some huge moment near the election where he says something that turns off people, he'll still be able to get past that.
He may still get past it. And of course, there's going to be the same controversy around the election. So the date of the election in the United States, all the way through January 20th, I think it's around the inauguration date, those times are very tumultuous for us. So some astrologers, Mars is going to be retrograde. Some astrologers have even wondered if the inauguration is going to be taking place anyway, because Mars is retrograde. So, just like, so sometimes we have events that I couldn't imagine, that you couldn't imagine, right? And like, who would have imagined Joe Biden getting on, doing the debate and what we saw?
Yeah.
Would you have, in your mind, could you have imagined that?
No.
Right. No.
I mean, I thought it was going to be the opposite. The reason he wanted an early debate is he wanted to show off that he, was okay. It's quite the opposite. Or
why didn't he just put it off if he wasn't feeling well?
Right. Well, I guess that would have been worse for the Democrats.
So that from the time of the election all the way through the inauguration date, we see events that, may be somewhat unpredictable, or that, is there a reason why the inauguration gets put off, for another date. So this is what I would be predicting, for the election and, through the inauguration date. It just doesn't look like, it's normal, or that it's everything's going to go according to plan, let's say.
Well, that's a big prediction. So the thought is that there's a possibility that the election could be delayed by some sort of event. That's what you're sort of seeing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you don't, obviously, I guess you don't know what that event is.
No.
It'd have to be pretty big, right?
Well, there's pretty big events going on in the world, all over the world, and it could be something so simple as, no one accepting the results of the election.
Well, I'm just thinking about how chaotic that would be. Yeah. Really frightening, honestly, to put off an election date. I think it would just be awful for the country.
And there's plenty of, plenty of events that have already started to happening that nobody could really imagine or predict.
All right. Well, if you're curious, you're okay talking to a few people on the phone and telling them what their lives are going to be like in the next couple months or year, right? Are you all right with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, because that's a lot of what you do, obviously. It is Terry Nazon, TerryNazon, terrynazon.com if you want your own personal reading. So the prediction is Donald Trump wins, but there might be some sort of world event that puts off the election. And even after the election, it's going to be a time of turmoil. Can I use the word turmoil? Or is that too much?
Yeah, absolutely.
So could we see another January 6th, something like that, or is it something completely different?
I think it's going to be more, more towards, more like protests, and it's in a change of power. Because, right now we have two political parties fighting over power, basically. And, we don't have many options. So there's a big switch that comes up in 2025 that starts to bring more of the power back to the people.
All right. Well, that's awfully interesting. All right. Here's our number. 646-720-0635. 646-720-0635. Terry, world famous astrologer, has agreed to give some of you, we're going to do just a few of you, some predictions about your future. You just need like a birth date, right? That's exactly like month, date, year.
Month, day, year. That's great.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a break. It is Noam Laden in for the other side of midnight for Frank Morano. We're with world famous astrologer Terry Nazon, and we'll continue our conversation with her right after this.
The other side of midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. Noam Laden filling in for a vacationing Frank Morano. Have on our newsmaker line Terry Nazon. She is a world-famous astrologer, and we've heard some interesting moments already that she's worried about maybe some sort of other event happening with Donald Trump in the next couple months, though she thinks Donald Trump will outlast Kamala Harris and win the election. She thinks the VP pick for Kamala Harris, which she's expected to announce in the coming days, she's going to hit the campaign trail with this VP candidate in Philadelphia on Tuesday, will likely be Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. And I think some of the good money is on him anyway, but there are a couple of other big name candidates who are in the running for that VP pick. And there's some sort of potential turmoil either right before the election or after the election that could put off the election day, which for me is actually the most concerning part of all the predictions she's already made this morning. So now we're going to give you a chance to, we just have a few minutes left, but Terry, you just need a birth date, year, let me do this right. A birth date and the year, and you can give people some quick predictions about what might be happening for them in the coming months and year. And that's all you need, correct?
Right.
Okay. So let's start with Lorraine. Lorraine is in Brooklyn. And now, Lorraine, you are on the other side of midnight. Lorraine, what's your birth date?
April 10th, 1952.
All right.
And do you have any area of your life that you'd like me to look at, Lorraine?
My financial and also my anything in my future, although I don't know how much future I have left, but I'm in pretty good health, and I just want to know if you see anybody in the future for me. I would like.
Lorraine, I think you're going to meet somebody, and so I think beginning in the month of May, from then on, you have every chance and every potential of meeting someone new.
Okay.
And it could be how people reconnect with their past love, with their high school sweetheart, their college sweetheart. It could even be somebody that, is from, the Wayback Machine, and could be somebody that has been in your past or that you knew somehow. So I would say that, I feel like you could meet somebody. As far as your finances go, you have the moon is in the sign of Libra, which typically is pretty good for the accumulation of money and wealth. I would say that you just need to watch your spending a little bit, maybe be a little bit on a budget, because maybe you're a little indulgent, which is okay. But I would say you have a lot to look forward to.
All right. Thanks, Lorraine. Let's keep going. Joe is in Ronkonkoma, and Joe, you are on the other side of midnight with me, Noam, and Terry Nazon. What's your birth date?
It's July 4th, 1975.
Hi, Joe. And
Hi.
So you have the same birthday as the United States of America. So is there some area of your life that you would like me to look at or to focus on?
Like my longevity, my health. That's you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, you don't have nothing.
So Joe is a Cancer, and Cancers are typically known as like the Boy Scouts of the zodiac. So it seems like you're a pretty nice guy. Do people tell you that?
Yes.
And but I also see, like, ladies, he's generous too.
Yes, I am.
Are you married or single?
I'm married.
Oh, okay.
He's a nice guy. You probably give good gifts to your wife, and I feel like you're a wonderful family man. People love you. I think that of recent, maybe there was some ups and downs with your finances, as there was for everybody, Joe. Right?
Yep.
And I feel that as far as your longevity, you've got Mars in Taurus, which typically makes somebody, strong as a bull. But I do feel like, you need to avoid anything like with the lungs, like smoking or, being in smoke or anything like that. So you do need to, take care of your lungs a little bit. But I wouldn't think that that's cause for any like major illness around you. So overall, I feel like, there's been some ups and downs with relationships, but everything looks to me like it's evened out by now. Are you considering moving? Or you want to move or buy a house?
We right now, when I retire, we're thinking about moving down south.
Yeah, I feel like you will.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much.
So we just have a minute or two left. Is inflation going to come down? It's been so hard. I heard you were talking about finances. Do you think that's going to come down in the next couple months, or are we still going to have hard times?
I don't think that they're going to raise the rates before the elections, and I do think that that we are going to see, because there's some strong aspects in the sign of Taurus. Taurus rules banks, and I would say that the most vulnerable area of our economy now is with a few banks.
So should I do something with my finances then? Should I switch something around?
No, not at all.
Just ride it out.
Not at all. Just ride it out. Exactly.
And what about, let me ask you this. What about the stock markets? Because they've been gangbusters now for a while. Is that going to continue?
I would say that, should any banks, the markets are very vulnerable to bank failures or any news that's, on the news or anything that happens, right? Very up and down. So there are astrological cycles that I do have on my website that do show, that the stock market, is when it's up and down, when it goes up, when it goes down. So the only vulnerability, I think, is going to be if we see any bank failures. That would be vulnerable. And that's probably going to be all the way through about April of next year that there's a vulnerability there.
We have just a couple seconds left, but is there some event collectively as Americans we should be looking forward to?
Well, like I said, the planets are aligned, and the one event that I would say not looking forward to, but being aware of is, the possibility of civil unrest, protests, a lot across the world, across the nation.
That's awfully frightening. All right. Well, Terry Nazon, it's TerryNazon, world famous astrologist. Terry, you've been fantastic. Thanks for coming on the other side of midnight.
Thank you, Noah.
Of course.
I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you. Have a great night. That's pretty wild stuff. So a Donald Trump victory, a Josh Shapiro pick for the VP, some event surrounding the election. I think that's the most frightening of all those predictions, but awfully interesting to hear from Terry Nazon. We got another hour together. We're going to talk about marriage, guilt-free chocolate, identical twins. I got a whole host of stories to get to. It is Noam Laden filling in for Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
This is The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
They're running a strange program, y'all.
Now, here's Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. Noam Laden in for a vacationing Frank Morano. I'm reading about this guilt-free chocolate bar. Really interesting what scientists are doing. We're living in an interesting time where now you have these fake meat products for people who don't want to eat meat, don't want the cholesterol, or they're vegans, and some of that stuff I find tastes pretty good. The fake burgers, you put them on the grill. If you grill them right, they're all right. Now there's this guilt-free chocolate bar that they're working on. It'll be full of the sugar that you get in a chocolate bar. The thought is it's going to land in a supermarket near you relatively soon. The chocolate would look and taste normal, contain the same amount of sugar that a normal chocolate bar does. But what scientists have done is they've looked at the enzyme encased in edible substance, and they've added this to the bar. So what it would do, it would reduce how much sugar is actually absorbed into your bloodstream and even turn it into a fiber that would be good for your gut. Now, I would think this would have even bigger things it could be used for, people who are diabetic maybe. The product, the brainchild of these scientists at Harvard University's Weiss Institute for Biological Inspired Engineering. They tapped these scientists, a couple of the chocolate companies, to help develop a sugar substitute that would enable these food giants like Kraft Heinz and Hershey's to cut the sweetener from its food without losing its effect. But the scientists actually had this different idea. They said, let's save the sugar, but devise a way to make it healthier. Of course, the problem is not the sugar itself. The problem is that we eat too much sugar. And so this sugar to fiber enzyme is among this latest technologies dreamed up to deal with our addiction to sugar without ditching sugar itself. Another fix involves a drink mix containing microscopic sponges that soak up sugar in the stomach at mealtime. Even researchers still working to reduce sugar are peddling some of these new technologies, and you can imagine there's a lot of investment going on, but we could someday soon, very soon apparently, according to these scientists at Harvard, have what would essentially be really a guilt-free chocolate bar. No doubt you've tried some of the stuff that's like low sugar, no sugar. It doesn't taste like the original. Now they're saying maybe in the very near future, if these scientists are able to work this out, you'd be having this Hershey bar that would taste 100% like the Hershey bar you're eating now, but the sugar would not affect you in the way that sugars do now. That would be amazing. And then there's this study that I also found interesting. People who regularly eat processed red meat like hot dogs, bacon, sausage, salami, bologna, have a greater risk now of developing dementia later in life. This is the conclusion of what's a preliminary research presented this week at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. So the study tracked about 130,000 adults across the U.S. for about 43 years. This is no simple study. And during that period, about 11,000 of those people developed some sort of dementia. Those who consumed about 2 servings of processed red meat per week had a 15% greater risk of developing dementia compared to those who ate fewer than 3 servings a month. So eating unprocessed red meat like steak, pork chops did not significantly increase the risk of dementia. So it was all these overprocessed red meats that do. So interesting, because if you are like me, you have people in your life now who are suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's, and they haven't figured out how to get rid of this or how to stop it. And it seems like now you have these memory care centers that are being built everywhere because that population of people with dementia and Alzheimer's is growing. And so, okay, one interesting study, not the end all, is saying that, hey, if you hold off on those processed meats, that might potentially make a difference. I thought this was funny. A UK comedian did not realize how bad his dental problems were until he actually started getting messages from people during his stand-up. So he's a Manchester native, Manchester, England. His name is Jamie Hutchinson, and he's a well-known comic in the UK. And he said over the last couple months, he started getting DMs, direct messages, into his Instagram from people who had seen him and said, and they weren't trying to be mean, they said, I had a front row seat to watch your comedy, and I was really enjoying it, but I couldn't enjoy it that much because your breath was so incredibly bad. Now, this is a guy who's on stage. I mean, if you've been to a stand-up comedy club, usually it's some form of an elevated stage, and then there's an audience that's sitting at a table having drinks. And you would think that might overwhelm the scent, the food or the drinks that they're having. But apparently his breath so bad that initially he said, okay, it's just some jerk who doesn't like what I'm doing. And he dismissed the DM. But he said he got a number of DMs from other people who said, also, by the way, I'm not trying to be mean, but your breath is incredibly bad.
How do you not know this?
Well, I don't know about you, but you've had people in your life who have horrendous breath and you don't tell them.
No, it happens here and there. But somebody who has chronic halitosis, you have to know. I mean, isn't it in the English are known for having bad teeth? That was
I think that was in the yesteryear, not so much anymore.
Yeah, that was this stereotype, I guess, of bad teeth, that they would then have bad breath. But what is this guy eating, or what is he brushing his teeth every day?
Well, he was.
What's he doing?
He ended up having some sort of serious dental health issue, and he said he would not have gone in to have it checked out in any serious way if he hadn't received enough DMs. He got like 7 messages from complete strangers. And again, I can understand the first couple he just totally dismissed as people who did not like maybe a stand-up or just tried to razz him or trolls online. But then he said, wait a minute. And he did ask a couple people around him. He said, hey, I'm getting these messages that I have bad breath. Do you think I have bad breath? And a couple people said, yeah.
Well, first of all, I'd be annoyed with all the people that never told me that I had this rancid breath.
Yeah, how do you tell people? Come on.
And then when 7 strangers out of nowhere DM you, you got to take that seriously. Because obviously your breath is really bad for somebody to take the time
to find you on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
And then write a message and go, yeah, I think you're really funny, but your breath is horrendous.
And then to couch it in like, hey, by the way, I'm a fan.
Right. Yeah.
But I just want you to go do something. So anyway, by the way.
But don't you know when you have bad breath? I mean, can't you taste it in your own mouth?
I can, but
but
I've worked with people, I've known people over my lifetime where it's like, whoa, but I would never in a million years tell them.
That's true.
I mean, if it was a loved one, that's something different.
Right.
But you're not going to tell somebody.
Yeah. No, it happens, but I think now that less people are smoking than before, that was always a thing of smoker breath. I mean, I smoked for a long time, and I had smoker breath, but I always chewed gum too to try to get rid of it to some degree.
Right.
But you gotta.
But you always reek of it anyway.
Your clothes reek of it. Everything reeks of smoke. That's the one thing that I gotta say, that I was not against this smoking ban in restaurants. I didn't like it at all. In bars, I mean, restaurants not as much, but bars. In the beginning, I thought it was horrible. But then when you're in a bar and you go, this isn't so bad.
Oh, it's great.
not
Thank God
so bad.
for this was in New York City. Mayor Bloomberg was instituted the no smoking ban here. Well, it's a long time ago already. And it was really controversial when he first did it. But boy, he was brilliant. He knew exactly what he was doing. And now it's just like you go to a concert, you come home, your pillow doesn't stink of smoke the next day. And the people who smoke, they smoke outside before they come in. No big deal. Bar, restaurant, whatever it was. And all those people, workers who were inhaling that secondhand smoke for so many years, now, they've been saved. The last outpost, of course, casinos, right? Casinos you can still smoke in.
Yeah, casinos you could still smoke in, but we'll see how much longer that even lasts.
All right, so I have to be honest with you, Matt. I was on either Facebook or Instagram. I can't remember which one. And you had a picture of your swimming pool.
Yeah.
That you had posted.
Yes.
And I said, oh, that looks very inviting, very nice.
Yes.
And I was like, I've never really looked at Matt Blaze's Instagram, Facebook. I don't remember which one it was. Facebook. Okay. Yeah. Facebook. Let me see.
All right.
So I started looking at a couple pictures. What people do, you kind of snoop around, see what's on there.
Sure.
And one of the first pictures I come to is of you with your arm around this beautiful woman who's clearly your wife, right?
Yeah. You could call her wifey.
Oh, she's not your wife?
Well, not technically, but yes.
Oh, so was she girlfriend?
More than that.
Oh.
We're just not legally married, but you could say wife. I mean, I do for the most part.
Oh, so you're part of this stat.
I'm one of those people, yeah.
Yeah, you're part of this stat of this new crew of a growing part of America of people who are living together who are not married, cohabitating. And the new census numbers have come out. They've really started to study this. And it is amazing the spike in couples that have decided to live together but not get married. The census data shows the spike in cohabitating couples in recent years, and their number is increasing much faster than that of married couples. This has never happened in the history of our country. And when they've studied these numbers over the decades, whether it be Pew or Census or anybody who follows this, they say this is an astounding number of couples who've now decided not to get married. And of course, there's so many benefits that go along financially and that kind of thing with getting married. But that doesn't seem to be matter to couples. In your case, how long have you been together with your girlfriend?
We've been 19 years. Yeah, 19 years.
And why
I'm living together for 18 of those years, I think. Yeah. Yeah, we've been living together since 2006, so it's 18 years.
And why haven't you decided to get married?
Well, there was the plan. That was a plan. It wasn't like we said, okay, we're just going to live together and that's that. That was a plan. And then when we decided to buy a house, that came first. And then the wedding was like, well, we'll see. And then, the next year, and then the next year.
So you own a house together.
Next year, yeah. And then the next year. And the next thing you know, we're all these years later. It's like, why even bother?
Right. Well,
we're fine.
Then it becomes, of course, incredibly complicated if something, God forbid, were to happen. You decided not to be together anymore. Then you have to figure that out. And there's all these financial benefits with being married. The number of married coupled households lagging behind. So there's this rise in cohabitation. It's a national trend. Back in 2010, there were 6.8 million unmarried couples living together in the U.S. That number has risen to 9.5 million, according to the latest census. So you're part of, Matt, what is a growing crew of people. The Census Bureau does not attempt to count less conventional domestic partner arrangements, but they do count ones like yours, right? So there's, kind of strange ones that they just don't bother with. So it's either, married couples, whether they be gay or straight, and then couples, whether they be gay or straight, who are cohabitating. So the rise they're seeing in the people who are cohabitating and not getting married are all in the big cities around the country. So of Seattle's nearly 42,000 cohabitating couples, only about 2,400 or less than 6% had children in the household. So that's the other issue, is not only are these couples not getting married, but they're also not having kids. And the numbers keep rising. And they think that there's all to suggest that when they do the next census, this number will be a whole lot higher.
Well, think about what's the divorce rate?
It's not as high as it once was, but it is pretty high.
Exactly. So, and how many times have you heard a story of people that lived together for 10, 12, 15 years, never got married, they decide to get married, and they're divorced and separated within a year?
True. It's absolutely true. Maybe you're in one of these cohabiting relationships and you can explain to me why, like Matt, you have decided not to get married and enjoy the benefits financially of being married. There's all kinds of studies here, and I'm going to get through them, that suggest that if you are married, you live longer, you have more money in the bank at the end of the day, and overall, you end up being happier. And that the people who are cohabitors are not as happy as in the end as married couples. So even though those numbers are rising of people who are living together and are not married, ultimately married couples, according to studies across the board, are happier. So why are you staying in a relationship where you're not married, where you don't all enjoy all those benefits? We're going to give you a chance to weigh in on this. 646-720-0635. 646-720-0635. Curious to hear. You can be in a married relationship as well. Talk about what it means, why people are deciding not to get married more and more, in what seems to be numbers that go up every time there's a new census, but the spike incredible in the last census from the one before that. We'll get that, your calls, and more stories. Noam Laden filling in for Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
Love and marriage, they go together like a horse and carriage. This I'll tell you, brother, you can't have one without the other.
Oh, yeah. Noam Laden, this is The Other Side of Midnight, in for Frank Morano, who's got the week off, vacationing down the Jersey Shore, talking about this rise in couples who stay together for years but never get married. Census numbers show those numbers have spiked big time. In fact, the number of couples living together and not getting married is growing faster than married couple. This according to the latest census. We're trying to figure out what is behind this. And maybe you're one of those couples who's decided not to get married, or maybe you decided to get married. And if you want to weigh in, of course you can. I'll give you the phone number, 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. There is all kinds of research that will tell you that the married couples ultimately are happier at the end of the day. Listen closely, Matt, as somebody who's been involved in a relationship of 19 years. Is that what you said? 19 years, 18 years? 19 years with what looks to be a lovely woman who... Does she bother you about getting married, by the way?
No.
Oh, so she's not interested in it either.
No.
There's this Gallup well-being data. It's a poll from Gallup. They talked to people from 2009 to 2023 to find that in the end, that married people are more likely to be thriving in their well-being than adults who are living with a couple that they have not gotten married to. So Gallup does this thing where they classify Americans in 3 different ways, and then they calculate the ultimate number. Either you're thriving, struggling, or suffering. That's according to how they rate their current and future lives. So when they did this survey over this really long period of time, married adults aged 25 to 50 were more likely to be thriving, the highest possible level for according to the survey. Thriving, suggesting that they're doing well or incredibly well. By double-digit margins, by the way, over the couples who were in relationships where they had decided not to get married.
That is so bogus, Noam. That is such a lie. First of all, what guy, what man is going to admit in front of his wife that he is not happy. That's not going to happen. No one's going to be, yeah, I hate her. She's sitting right next to you in this survey. I don't like my wife.
Well,
who's going to say that?
Let me take this one step further, At. One indication of why married people express higher subjective well-being is that the quality, they say, of their romantic relationships tends to be a whole lot higher than those who have decided and opted not to get married.
Yeah, with who?
What do you mean?
It just says that their romantic relationship with who? Their wife or their mistress? Just because it says their romantic involvement doesn't have to be with their spouse.
Right.
It could be somebody else, which keeps them happy with their marriage.
Well, you make a good point there. 646-720-0635. Let's see. Jesse is in Minnesota. And now, Jesse, you are on the other side of midnight. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling from Minnesota, and I should start by saying that I personally have never been married, but I'm in my mid-40s, and I've watched many male friends and male coworkers go through divorce. And I can only speak for Minnesota. I cannot speak for any other states. But in Minnesota, divorce is very, very, very hard on the male, especially if the male has children with his wife. And so I always knew that I wanted to retire semi-early. I hope to be finished at 59 and a half. And divorce just decimates those chances, because of the financial commitments that the male must attend to. Now, if you have children, of course you should provide. But in Minnesota, typically the wife gets the house and the husband gets to continue paying for it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we have a saying in Minnesota: "Love is grand, divorce is $100,000."
Right, that's great.
And that's just the cost of getting divorced. That's just the lawyer fees and the court fees. And what was that Jerry Reed song where he said they split it down the half, and they split it down and they gave her the better half. I think it was called.
Right. That's absolutely right. So let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking. I think you make a great point. My friends, by the way, you were 100% right. The ones that have gotten divorced, almost all of them have essentially been decimated, and not. I will say both sides. The husband and the wife are now not living as well as they were living before. No two ways about it. How come you never decided to get married? Just didn't find the right person?
No, in fact, kind of a side, when internet dating was kind of a new thing, I gave it a try for a couple of years and really enjoyed it. I enjoy dating, but I put on my profile on these internet sites. Now, these were, not hookup sites. These were just actual, let's go on a date sites. And I was 100% honest. This is what I'm offering. This is what I'm not offering. These are my deal breakers. And I got so many messages. And the headline of my dating profile was, "The greatest guy you'll never marry." And from the start, I made it very clear. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal, but I will never marry you. And I got so many women that messaged me and just said, "Thank you for being so straightforward and honest."
I love that. I love. Hold your thought 1 second for Jesse. Jesse, it's 30 minutes after the hour. This is the other side of midnight. Talking with Jesse, who's listening to us on WCCO in Minnesota. That's a great headline, but of course, doesn't help you if you do decide you want to get married. Writing something like that, being so honest.
No, and I would recommend, if there's any. Life is better if you are a heterosexual male. Life is better with a female in your life. And running around, let's leave that for the younger guys. But when you're established and you're, this whole running around idea, that let the guys in their 20s do that. But when you're in your 30s and 40s, your life is better if you share it with a female.
Oh,
However,
so you feel like you would like to get married at some point?
No, not married. I said.
Oh, just together with somebody.
No, just somebody to
hang out with.
Hang out with, enjoy different, explore their interests. They explore yours. You go out and have a good time. I'm one that actually goes outside. actually take a woman on a date, an actual real, let's shut our cell phones off date. I mean, that's kind of old fashioned, but
I think that's great.
At the end of the day, I would like my 401k to remain a 401k. I don't want it to turn into a 201k.
Right. I hear you.
And on the other side of the coin, the Johnny Taylor song, "It's Cheaper to Keep Her." I know a lot of guys that are miserable, and they're good human beings, so they're sticking it out for the best. It's better for the kids if the household stays intact. So they're doing that, but they are walking shells. They're miserable, and I just don't think that that was ever going to be the road for me. That's just me personally. So if the point I'm trying to make is, I do think that your life is better if you share it with someone, but that doesn't mean you have to retire at age 85 only because your body can no longer work. I want to retire with dignity, and I'd like to keep my home. I'd like to keep my pension.
You sound like a guy that women would love. Are you with somebody right now?
Right now, yes and no. Yes, but she does not like the fact that I'm a workaholic. I do like to work. I was born to work. I like to work. When I have time off, it's hers. But I don't have as much time off as she would like.
All right.
Well, I know there's probably others in that boat as well.
Yeah. All right, Jesse.
It's a balance game.
It is. And you made a lot of great points, and you should definitely call in more often. And thanks for listening to The Other Side of Midnight.
Guys, have a good night. And if there's anybody out there that is married, remember, it's cheaper to keep her.
Yeah. It's so funny you should say that. So I see the board is all lit up with people who want to weigh in, and I imagine a fair amount of people are going to agree with Jesse on that one. Let's go to Ralph, who is here in Manhattan. And Ralph, you are now on The Other Side of Midnight.
Jesse should be a talk show host.
Yeah.
I mean, he just... you had a good 10 minutes with that cat, but that was excellent. Just to go back for a moment, Noam, if I may, about the alternative to meat, so on and so forth. It's if you have the source of the meat is what counts. If you have grass-fed beef once in a while, you have that kind of good organic chicken. You're gonna find that this is what your body is made to eat. It's the source, is what that animal eats, not so much and the processed stuff is actually a big no.
Right.
I mean, if you could stay completely away from that processed stuff, you'd be doing yourself a great service, because it's just terrible. I got married at 61.
Wow.
And
first time? First time marriage?
My first time. I was running when I was listening to your show, so I'm out of breath. I got married for the first time 61, and it's been just a wonderful thing for me. Changed my life completely. I don't know if there's one woman for everybody, but as soon as I met my wife, I felt that this was right for the first time. And I was confirmed. No, I said to myself, I'm never going to get married. But she ultimately changed my mind. And it's been a great thing.
Wow. Well, that's great to hear. What are you doing running out in the middle of the night?
Well, if I get it done now, Noam,
right.
I can't talk myself out of it later on.
Oh, that's
because
you make a good point.
And on that empty stomach in the morning, if you're fasting till about 1 p.m, which I do on a regular basis, it is the absolute best. If you get out there, start your day so beautifully, you just get out there and go. You splash some water on your face and you just take off, and that's exactly what I do.
All right. Ralph, great story. Thank you for joining us on The Other Side of Midnight. Let's see, who else we got? Mark is in Illinois, and now, Mark, you're on The Other Side of Midnight. It's interesting. It's all men calling in. Hey, Mark.
Well, yeah, I am totally blind, and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to ask of my prospective or actual girlfriend, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to ask her if she would be willing to be religiously married, but not legally married. And the reason I'm going to ask her that is that I don't want to sponge off of her income. I get a disability check, but my best legal understanding is that if we got legally married, I would lose that check because I would legally be considered her dependent. And therefore, they would totally cut off my check. So I would want to keep the check coming in. And the only way I know of to do that is to be religiously married, but not legally married. Being religiously married means that you have said vows and you have had sex, but you have not done it with state-approved authority. And I don't see anything wrong with that. If you have made a commitment to each other and you have said vows and you really mean them, I don't see that you need the piece of paper. And I know a lot of Christians would disagree with me that. I am a Christian and I believe in abiding by the covenant of marriage, but I don't think you need the legal piece of paper to do it.
And so you would say essentially it's under God you're married, which seems like that's very reasonable. That commitment would be just as strong.
And I would not have sex with any other woman, period.
Are you with somebody now, or this is what you're suggesting that you want to happen?
I have met a woman lately that I'm kind of thinking about whether she should be my girlfriend, and this is one of the questions I'm going to put to her. Would you be willing to be married religiously, but not legally?
When you've dated over the years, have the people that you dated, they're people who can see, or are they people that are as blind as well?
No, for the most part, I've dated people who have sight, and I used to be partially sighted. I've only lost my total eyesight in the last 4 years.
And so, so it's all been and even now. And when you say you've lost your sight, is what happened that you lost your sight?
In brief, I had scar tissue on the front of my eye. Because of COVID, my surgery was delayed.
Oh, geez.
The delay in my surgery gave the scar tissue time to migrate to the rear of my eye and detach my retina. The ophthalmologist tried everything to reattach my retina, and it didn't work.
That's a horrendous story. I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible. Jeez.
Well, I'll tell you, I always loved the fireworks. I always loved the changing of the seasons in spring and in autumn, and I always loved the Christmas lights. The only compensation I have is that I've always seen colors with music. Unfortunately, I still do.
And so you can't see anything now?
No, I occasionally get what I'm getting now. I've got a lighted visual field, but the light is coming from my brain. It's not coming from anything in the external world.
I always, what is it like to go from being somebody who could see and sort of, I imagine you didn't have to rely on other people, then in later life now to have to really rely on other people. That must be incredibly hard.
To some extent, I had to rely on other people because my vision was still considered to be 10% or less. But yeah, there have been changes. For instance, I have learned to use a cane, and then only within my apartment building. I still need more training in order to use it outside the building. But yeah, there have definitely been adjustments.
Well, Mark, best of luck to you. Thanks for calling in to the other side of midnight. Chris is on Long Island, and now, Chris, you are on the other side of midnight.
Hi, Noam. How are you? Big fan.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm 58. My girlfriend's 56, and we are talking about moving in together without getting married. She's retired. She retired at 53, and that would enable me to retire at a younger age on Long Island.
Right, and so that's why you're making the decision. It's really a financial decision in the end.
Yeah, it's more than that. I mean, we love each other. She's got 4 children, though, also. So we're waiting to get the last one off to college. Once we do, then financially it makes sense for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. I mean, it sounds like for most people, and thanks so much, Joe, for giving us the holler on the other side of midnight. 646-720-0635, looking at these studies that talk about the married couples, unmarried couples, and their level of happiness. There's all this information too about whether you should live together before tying the knot. And much to what Matt said, there are all kinds of studies that suggest that couples who actually did live together after a long period of time and then decided to get married, that they were more often likely to then get divorced, which is fascinating to me, that you would spend, in Matt's case, 18, 19 years together. Let's say he decides to get married. The chances then go up incredibly that he will then get divorced. And that's just after having a piece of paper that you signed and maybe going before God in church or synagogue, whatever, mosque, and getting married to somebody. I think that's really interesting. I wonder why that is.
I think it's because they felt like free. Even though they were together on their own accord. But now that they're married, they feel totally attached. And then they don't like it. I think they feel boxed in, even though it's the exact same thing. You're already with the person for all these years, just because now that you have a ring on your finger, and now I guess maybe there was like always in the back of their heads people think like, oh, I could always leave because I'm not actually married to the person. But then once you get married, now you're attached. Now in their heads, they think they can't leave because they're married, and then they become unhappy. And that's what I think happens. And I don't feel like that in my case, by the way, but that I think if I got married, that would happen. But for me, we just got to a point where we're like, why even bother?
Well, if you were to leave at this point, after so many years, it would be the same thing as getting a divorce.
I guess that's true.
You would have to go through if you bought the house together, right? And all that other stuff. You could go the same thing a married couple would go through.
There's all stuff like that that's tied together, but I'm not a person that I wouldn't be like a messy. It would just be like, you could have whatever. I really don't care.
Yeah, well,
that's just the way I am.
No, I don't wish that on you because it's an awful thing to happen.
No, of course not. Yeah. I'm just saying.
Right. It is interesting, too, that we're watching as people do decide to get married. There's this other trend now towards trying to figure out a way to save cash on all these weddings because they become so expensive. The average wedding across the country now is around $30,000, which is an enormous sum of money. And it's interesting to see what some of these young couples are doing. A number of couples now are going for a brunch wedding, which I think is kind of an interesting idea. Spending a lot less money to bring everybody in to do the same thing that they would do at nighttime. The DJ, the caterer, the flowers, the person who officiates the wedding. And we're seeing this a lot in New York. In fact, this one couple saying that the nighttime wedding, if they had done the same wedding that they did for brunch, the nighttime version of it would have cost them $80,000. This is here in Midtown Manhattan. This is, the photographer, the caterer, the DJ. They did a 10 a.m. service, and then they brought people over to have chicken, waffle, shrimp, and grits as the breakfast meal. And it cost them a third of what they were being told a nighttime wedding would cost them, which I think is really interesting. The other new trend in weddings as well is slapping a price tag on tickets. Now, this one, I don't know how I'd respond to it, but it is a growing trend in the wedding industry, is couples will send you a ticket to buy to come to their wedding. So $333 for this one couple here in the city, Nova and Rima Stiles. They said, okay, we figured out how much our wedding would cost. They had this dream wedding. They wanted to invite a certain amount of invitees. They figured out how much the caterer would cost. They had a live band. And then they sent out tickets to all the people that they wanted to invite to their wedding. Now, the ticket was $333. $333. And then that got you and I guess your guest, a spouse, whatever, a couple into the wedding. And then they said no gifts or anything like that. So $333, you pay for the wedding. I'm guessing they must have put in a little finances for them to have some money left over as well. And they're one of a number of couples now started to do this. And maybe this will become the norm because there's always that issue of like, what do I buy the couple afterwards? How you try to figure out the cost of the plate, whatever it is, whatever your calculation is on getting a couple a wedding gift. This trend of $333. So 150 people, 350 people, $333. I don't know how much that works out to, but it's a lot of money.
I guess they look at it as a trade-off that you don't have to buy a gift, but you're spending $330 to attend their wedding.
Right.
But to me, that just comes off as totally obnoxious. That, oh, we're gonna send you a ticket to our wedding and you have to pay if you want to come to our wedding.
Yeah.
Like we're putting on a performance, like it's a concert, like it's a show. To be at our wedding, you have to pay to be there. You invite people to a wedding because they're your family, they're your friends. You want to celebrate with them in the joy of the union of two people, not for any other reason. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having a wedding party. Now, you tell these people, oh, by the way, don't give us any gifts, but you got to spend $330.
Right.
The same as people who have destination weddings.
Yeah, well,
it's obnoxious. It's just obnoxious. You're making unless you're going to fly them, unless you're going to pay for the wedding. Like that couple did.
Yeah.
That story that we did a few weeks ago about this couple that had this wedding and it was on a cruise and they paid for all that.
Right.
It was like, what was it, $1 billion or whatever it was?
It's the most expensive wedding maybe in history.
Yeah, something crazy, but they paid for it. If you're going to pay for that, a destination wedding, by all means, invite everybody you want. It's just that people have to have the time to go where they're going. And the same thing with this. I think if you're going to have a wedding, you pay for it. Let people, and if you have a wedding, if you bring a gift, you don't give a gift, who cares? That's not the purpose of the wedding. You're not going to the wedding because you want gifts, or you have a wedding because you want gifts. At least that's not my thing.
Yeah, they're celebrating your love in front of other people.
Exactly. Yeah. So if somebody brings a gift, great. If they don't, great. Just I want you to come because I want you to celebrate with me.
Yeah, you know how it is though. It's the shock of that $333 ticket now, and then it'll become the norm. It'll be like, okay, you're just paying for one price. You know what the price is. In and out, no present. Give them the money. Boom, on the way. Because ultimately, new couples, that's all they want is cash. They're not interested in getting a food processor or mixer like in the old days. So
but $330 per person?
I think it's a couple. $333
okay, I was going to say. Yeah. All right, so that's what, $160 some odd $165 each, which is probably what a plate costs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is, but it just still comes off as obnoxious to me.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It could become the new trend. A fair amount of couples are trying it successfully, by the way, have pulled it off. All right, we got more to get to. It is Noam Laden in for Frank Morano. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight. It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. Noam Laden in for Frank Morano. There definitely is a place in hell for people who fake disabilities to get things for themselves. I mean, this is just horrendous. No doubt you've probably heard about this one scam that takes place at Disneyland and Disney World, where couples in the past, or families, really more likely families, sometimes have essentially rented somebody who is disabled to push around in a chair. You haven't heard about this? This is an ongoing. Oh, this has been going on for years.
That you hire somebody?
Yeah, you hire
to play disabled, or are they actually disabled?
No, they're actually disabled. And so what Disney does a lot of times is, if depending, I guess, on your disability, they move you to the front of the line at rides. And as you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, no doubt those lines can be incredibly long, and the kids get, they just can't handle it.
Wait, how much does it cost to rent one of these?
It's a fair amount of money. There was a couple New York families over the last couple of years that sort of essentially got busted doing it. I mean,
but how do you get busted?
Well, I think they just figured out the scam. Either they told other people about it, and then they went to the press and said, "This is awful. How could you do this?" But they did.
I thought it was somebody pretending to be disabled,
and then they've had
riding a ride in that golf cart that they do.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, I haven't been to Disney. It's been a while since I've been there, but the last time I was there, all I can remember going to like the Magic Kingdom was a bunch of fat people riding around in these golf carts.
Right. They don't get they don't get frontline access. It's people who truly have some form of disability, and you have to do some sort of registration sometimes depending on where you are and what it is, and Disneyland, Disney World, other theme parks. So Disney World's getting tired of this because so many people are trying to pull this scam where they sit in a wheelchair and try to get to the front of the line. So now, if they have a new policy, if you've ever faked a disability to skip lines at Walt Disney World, you could receive a lifetime ban from the happiest place on earth. They are now updating their policies, and any guest that's caught lying about having a disability to abuse what they call the Disability Access Service in order to skip lines will be banned. And I was looking at the website. They'll determine, they're going to ask you all kinds of questions. So this policy went into effect just a few weeks ago. And when you register, they're going to try to just access or figure out right away what your disability is. And they think, just in a matter of questions, they'll be able to figure out whether it's legit or real or not.
It'd be like Dragnet under some lamp, and they're going to ask them questions. When did you get this disability? How did you get this disability?
Yeah.
What's the name of your doctor? We're going to check out. We're going to make sure. What's the name of your doctor's office? When was your last appointment?
Yeah, well, now...
How far along are you in this disability?
Right.
Answer me.
Well, who knows? It may be something like that. But good for Disney World, because the fact is that there's a fair amount of people that have done this over the years and continue to do so, faking this disabilities to get to this front spot in line. They said they're going to eye them, watch them, either coming in, out of the park, ask them a few questions along the way. And if they're able to determine that you fake this, and I imagine it's not hard to do, figure out who's legit and who's not, you'll get a lifetime ban from Disneyland or Disney World. So good for them for coming up with that. I think that's a smart move on their part.
Well, I wonder if they'll put somebody that works at Disney and they go, listen, this guy over here says he's disabled. Tail him. And they give you you have to tell the family
I don't think it's
around the
bad.
park and just watch them. Make sure that guy doesn't get up out of that wheelchair.
It seems like there are so many scams, and I read about these scams, and I'm always amazed that people take it to the next level. And this poor woman at a Mayfield Heights, Ohio. So she fell for this scam where she handed over money to people who were pretending to be from her bank. These criminals said that they were from Huntington Bank in Mayfield Heights, Ohio. They called her on what looked like a customer service number line. You may have gotten these calls too, where looks like somebody's calling you from Wells Fargo or some other bank, and maybe you pick up the phone and right away you figure out it's not real. Unfortunately for this woman in this case, she did not. So they told her that there was some sort of problem with her bank account and that the law enforcement was going to come after her if she did not move $6,000 from her bank account at Huntington Bank to a Chase Bank debit card. And then add it to her Apple Wallet, and I guess that's where they were able to steal it without anybody figuring it out. But if that's not enough, these horrendous, awful people who took the $6,000 in cash from her that she'll never see again, they then called her on FaceTime, and they told her that not only did they need the money from her account, which she had already apparently had given to them, but they needed to do a full body scan to verify her identity, due to the fact that they said there was some sort of failed transaction. Now, at this point, they already had the money in their hands. And they said to do this full body scan, she would have to take off all of her clothes. So the same poor woman who now's given the scammer $6,000, they call her on FaceTime. She then takes the phone and she drops all of her clothes. And in that moment, these awful human beings who we need to find and just beat the living daylights out of, they start laughing. And in that moment, she realizes that's when she's been scammed out of all that money. And that she, just people out there, they don't know. You by yourself, sometimes you don't have anybody to ask a question to know that this is fraud or if this is real. But
taking off your clothes?
Yeah, to do a full body scan. So then now Huntington Bank has come out and they said, by the way, we'll never call you on FaceTime. That's not going to happen. And, for sure, you need to watch out when a number looks like it's coming from us and they're asking for some sort of information where you need to transfer funds. The best thing to do is hang up the phone, walk into the bank, and see if that whole thing is legit or not. Chances are it's not legit.
Well, these are the scams that have been going on now for a long time, especially with emails and text now, that it looks like an email from your company.
And it's not.
And I got one of those emails today.
Yeah.
From what seemed to be my cable company.
Right.
Saying that a payment has been declined. Now, meanwhile, the payment went through a week ago.
Right. Yeah, well, and people get tons of emails like this all the time, and it's always good. Just ask somebody around you. Sometimes you walk it through it with them to make sure it's legit. It's easy to fall for. I know people have fallen for this. The tax one, in this case, this woman with her bank. How awful. FaceTime. Oh, my God. If I could find these people, I'd take them out back. All right, it's been fun filling in for my buddy Frank Morano on the other side of midnight. Maybe we'll do it one more night tomorrow. Have a fantastic morning. This is The Other Side of Midnight.